Hey, gang. What's happening? What's up? What's up? What's up, assassin? Addy, what's going on? Turn this music down. Kev Rob, what's happening out there? Big Bobzilla, what's going on? Captain Chaos, showing up to claim your winnings. This will be the last time that you'll be able to claim winnings when you weren't here. We're doing exactly, Chuck. Exactly, Chuck. What's happening, guys? A tank. A tank. Romans, what's going on? Hola, ¿cómo estás? Don't ask me any more than that. That's about all I know. I run out of stuff to say in Spanish after that. Yo soy el pescado grande. What's happening, everybody? Welcome to Wednesday. It is Whip Wednesday. Type exclamation point whip in chat. Go put your pictures up over on the website so we can look at them. You do have to register on the site, but don't worry about it. You won't get any spam from us. It's just a good way to protect us from dick pics. Yep, we'll be painting some Rivet Wars, some chibi tank today. As a matter of fact, it's funny because somebody posted like this same tank over in the Whip. I saw it today when I was going through Whip to find my starting point, and somebody else was painting this tank. So we're going to use some traditional weathering techniques on a cartoon tank, which I think ought to be fun. We're going to paint it in a very realistic way with, we'll be going with some brighter colors. I say brighter colors. I don't know that that's actually the case. I'm not going to paint it in bright greens. We're going to paint it in actual military colors. So it's just a cartoon tank. Grens, what's going on, man? Happy hump day. Wife is taking you out for your birthday? Fantastic, Chuck. Puppets War? Rivet Wars is what this is, Dathar. Yep, Rivet Wars. This is the Allied super heavy tank. So, and then there is a German super heavy tank, or a Axis super heavy tank. I don't remember if they actually use like nation names in it. But there is an Axis style tank. It needed more cleanup, and so I couldn't get it primed in time for the show. I was going to paint the Axis one. And then as I started looking at it, it's got a lot more mold deficiencies on it at corners and stuff. Lines on the barrel. The stuff is hard to clean. Not very good. I mean, it's good hard plastic, but it's PVC plastic, so it's a little bit more difficult to get clean than a normal, like more resin-based or harder durometer normal mold plastic. So it's board game style plastic. So it's a little bit rubbery, a little bit flexible. It skins over as you try to clean the mold lines. We've talked about the stuff that comes out of Cool Mini or Not before doing that. Like I said, this guy's got some pretty hefty mold lines, if you can see that on the back of the helmet there. Right. Some mold slippage and stuff on this particular tank. This one wasn't so bad. This one didn't have any big ones on the dome of the turret, which I'm assuming because it only had the mold released towards the front. You can see a little bit of line there. But this one wasn't near as bad. There's probably some that I missed just because I got tired of screwing with it. It was skinning over on me and such, but we'll deal with that as it goes. Ugh. Killing Time, what's going on? Thank you for the post-birthday wishes. Yeah, it's cool, and it's actually a good game. It's set on it's a grid-based board game, combat board game. That's very cool because you get points, like resource points as the turns go on, and you can spend those resource points to pull in extra units. So if you want to avoid pulling in units one turn so that the next turn you can pull in a super heavy tank, you can do that. So there's some cool strategy, but it's a very checkers, chess style grid-based game where you can only attack X amount of squares out for each unit. Certain units can shoot only adjacent squares. Tanks like this can shoot like 3 squares out. You've got mortars, you've got planes, flying things can, move in different ways like different chess pieces. It's a pretty cool strategy game. Pretty cool. Tight-knit, the board's very small, but lots of fun. Lots of fun. Did I see the old-ass dice bag in the gallery yesterday? It was older than some people who play the game. What? You bastard. You bastard, Domino. The bag isn't older. The dude giving you the bag is older, I think is the way that works. I think that's the way it works. Uh-oh, I knew Orcus would like it. You may need one. This is from Rivet Wars, Orc. And it is about Gretchen tank size and would work well for that, probably. It's cartoony enough to fit kind of orcs, but it's got enough detail on it that it actually, you know, feels pretty decent, right? I mean, obviously it's got panel lines and lots of rivets, lots of steampunk-esque kind of feel to it, but it's actually very, very cool. But the characters for the game are very much like oversized Legos. Chibi Lego-style dudes. That's the tank commander. You can see he's got like a Lego face, just a cylinder with a couple of details put on a cylinder, you know? So, they're pretty cool. But it's obviously, you know, a weird scale. But it could probably be converted over for that. For Gretchen's orc mob crap. Probably get away with it. They come in really bright plastics. Right? So the allied tank here was in this bright-ass green so that, you know, you still feel like... Because it's a board game. It's not it's not technically a miniatures war game like what we're used to. It's a cool miniature not board game called Rivet Wars. And it's actually very fun to play. Great game. And all the plastics are in various colors. They got like the Axis are in gray. So you can just put it on the board and play. Right? The bases have these crazy slots in them for wound trackers. So you can put wound counters on here. I don't know how many. Each one has a card with a profile of what it does, and it gives you its wound stats. I think these are like 6. They might be the full 8 for the super heavy. And it comes with little red tabs that you just put another tab in there for every wound it takes. So, pretty cool. Real basic. But neat models. They have various loadouts. You can choose to put just the hatches on it. I think it might be a paid upgrade to have a commander, which might give it abilities. And then there's like a rocket launcher that goes on top of this one. This one, obviously we're going to paint the commander and the Gatling cannon that goes on it, but you can just put a hatch here in place of the Gatling cannon. I think the Gatling cannon, again, is like a point upgrade for it. So I don't know if I haven't played with these, so I don't know if that means when you bring it on the table, you can put the Gatling cannon on it and pay the extra points, or if you can upgrade it while it's already on the table. I don't know. I don't know these things, but we're going to do some traditional scale model techniques for this. We're going to do some rust chipping effects. So we're going to first airbrush it and get a cool rust base on there with the AK rust effects, right? So we're going to do the AK rust airbrush stuff going from dark to light rust and build up a cool rust color across the entire surface of the model. Then we're going to add the Vallejo chipping solution onto it. We're going to airbrush thin that down this time so it doesn't build up as much texture. Thin this down, airbrush the chipping solution all over the tank, and then we're going to work it up with the greens, very similar to the way we're doing our Yuching JSA. So using very kind of ruddy military greens on it. So very realistic green. Then we'll chip it back, then we'll highlight it, and all that kind of gunk. But that's what we do, just to show the process of how we go about doing that. Depending on how much whip we look at today, we may only do the rust airbrush, and then tomorrow on Thursday's stream, worry about going through and doing the chipping on it. We'll see. I'll probably only spend 2 streams on this guy. Oh, you replaced your old-ass bag. I got it, Domino. I did not see that. Okay, well, then I take it back. You're not being mean then. Matchstick, it is Rivet Wars. It's a game you've been avoiding. Now you're going to have to buy into it, Grins. Anyone use War Colors paints? Tempted to order some. Big Bob, no. Now, I don't find that they would offer any colors that I can't get elsewhere. So, you know me, I don't go into paints just because of a name. I'd like to test them, and I contacted the guy to see if he'd give us a kind of a media set that we could test and do on stream, and he said no. So there you go. He said, nope, we don't do that. You can buy it, though. I was like, nope, I already have all the paints I need. Don't need to be buying more from you. All right, let's get going. Let's dig right into it. It's 2:07. No time for wasting. We will get the airbrush set and get some base coats going on this guy. We'll be using a lot of the Vallejo effects paints that I have in the store, just so you guys can get a good feel. We'll be using like the petrol spills, the grass and mud on the tracks.
$5 to the cause, and maybe it'll make you feel better.
What the hell? Psychotic. The man, the myth, the legend. Are you kidding me? I gotta dance for that one. I'm your monkey, brother. Holy hell. Psychotic! Exclamation point! Hype! Hooray for payday! Hooray for payday, Psychotic! Thank you very much, my friend. Huge support of the stream there. Hype it up in chat for Psychotic Jester. Thank you, my friend. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Ugly, you contacted and admitted they had a bad batch of paint agitators and offered to send you scale 75 equivalent replacements for the paints that were ruined. Good. Good, they should. That means they knew they didn't get real 304 stainless or 314 stainless, whatever it is.
$50 donation received from Psych0 Tick J3 Stir. For the booty.
Why am I not hearing this? Hang on a second, guys. Hang on. I'm not hearing these things. It's like it's playing out the wrong thing. Hang on. Hold, please.
I know it's a bit silly. Just a moment.
See, now that sounds right. That's weird as hell. All right, I'll leave it alone. Ever since Windows 10 updated on this machine, man, audio is foobar. So. Psychotic, you got your stuff in the mail yesterday? Awesome. Awesome. Trying to find the base gray I used on the Imperial Fist, but cannot remember the name. Greenleaf Terrain Studios. It is Azurite Gray, I think is what it's called. Hang on, let me find it. Black, gray. I think it's Azurite. Correct? No, it's just gray. Black, gray. Black, gray. I got all the grays except the one at light gray. What the hell? Anthracite. Not azurite. Azurite would be blue. Anthracite gray. It's just a little tinge of blue to it. You can do the same with base gray and a little bit of blue. I mean, that's all the color really is. But Big Bob, tell you when you can let go? What are you talking about? Hold on. Hold on. Hold, please. Is that right? Now you gotta let go? Never let go, Big Bob. Hold on forever. Hold on forever. Let me see if this is... It's because it's using the damn monitor. Ah, that's why. Yep. All right, bingo. Every time I open a program that uses sound, Windows 10 now defaults them to different outputs. And because we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 monitors on this computer, it like defaults it to one of the monitors all the time. Even though I've got them all well, I had them all disabled. Now it's like re-enabled them. Drac, what's going on? Viking, what the hell's going on? Holy hell, good to see you. You just don't like us anymore, Viking. I get it. I get it. You milked me for all the info you needed, and now you left. Welcome back, man. Hope life is calming down for you a little bit. How'd the thing go over the weekend? Didn't you have some sort of I forget what you were going to over the weekend. Edge Highlight, what's happening? What are you talking about, Grins? I don't even want to know. Frozen 2, forget that. Not even interested in Frozen 1. All right, Shadow Rust is the first color we're using from AK. AK Interactive Shadow Rust. I find these to be some of the best Rust colors. I like the secret weapon stuff, but I feel like the AK is a little bit better. But it doesn't mean that the secret weapon stuff is bad by any means. I still use the secret weapon stuff quite a bit. I've just been using the AK more regularly. The AK Interactive stuff literally comes out pretty much set up for straight spray into an airbrush. It's almost too thin to use on a brush because you really want with rusts, you want good opaque coverage, right? So So notice how I'm not even mixing any of this. We'll see how it plays out, but I'm not mixing any of this in with any kind of thinner at all. Just straight rust over all of this entire tank. Now, when you're doing a base layer for chipping, one of the things we talk about a lot is that you don't have to spend a ton of time with placement. You want to make sure you get enough coverage on the areas that you know you're going to chip, like suspension areas. The wheels I'm going to be doing differently, so I'm not as concerned with the wheels, but I do want to get the suspension. And then all of these side spots, yada yada. But I'm not trying to glaze here, so I'm going full bore with this rust. I want to get it to seat in pretty good across the entire model. All of these metal panels. Anywhere where I think I might want to chip and see some rust, I'm just going to go ahead and lay it in. But it doesn't have to be 100% thick. None of that. So if it can be blotchy, I don't care. No, you don't, you lying liar who lies. You don't either. Chocolate Gore, holy hell, man. Good to see you. How you been? Another guy that disappeared on us. Where you been doing? Business been going all right? Bad logic. Not good logic. Not even sure where you come up with this shit. Not even sound logic. Psychotic. Alerts aren't sounding? You're not hearing the sounds on your end? What do you mean? You cannot hear the alerts or the sounds. Hang on. Music is off too. Hold, please. Speakers, maybe? I'm hearing them on my end, so that's why you guys are abusing me with them. Thank God. Maybe we'll just turn them off. They're back. Again, the blame Windows 10. Hashtag blame Windows 10. Piece of garbage. It updated on my computer, and now none of the sounds map correctly for any of the programs that I use on this computer. So, there you go. Great Windows. Great engineering. You got software guys at Microsoft that are going, oh yeah, not a big problem. You can spend all those hours redoing everything that you've done over the past, right? It's not a big deal.
Get down with the
right?
clown.
Wow! I feel good.
Just got a new studio, Shacklegore. What does that mean? Just got a new studio? Like just set up a new place in your house to paint? Is that what we're talking about? Or did you get a new building? Congrats either way. That's always awesome. Hopefully it's more conducive to getting stuff done. I know that feeling. I'm going to go ahead and get these smokestacks, even though I might not do a whole lot of rust on them. Barrels of the gun, too, just in case. I don't have to rust anything. That's the nice thing, that when you're doing this, you don't have to choose to go back and chip the whole tank. But you want to make sure you give yourself enough options that if you do choose to do like chipping on the barrel or whatever, that you can go back and do it without having to repaint or have it look different than the rest of the model. So be liberal with your application anytime you're setting up for chipping solution. See, this stuff is being able to run in a lot of paint solidly through the brush right now. We're not even worried about the brush clogging because this stuff from AK, like I said, is pretty thin. We're using a lot of paint, but its thickness is really, really nice and consistent out of the brush, right? I'm not seeing a lot of tip dry, nothing like that. I am going through quite a bit of paint, more than I'm used to. But I like the consistency coming straight out of the bottle on these. You never see me use paint straight out of the bottle through my airbrush. It's just not a thing I do. But with these rust colors from AK, I felt really comfortable doing it. And the only reason I learned that is because I thinned them down like I do with all my paints, and I didn't like it. The color was just not where I need it. I need to make sure that these rusts, after we go through and do the chipping, look like, you know, bright rust or dark rust or whatever it is for, you know, the value on the model that we're looking for. And I mean, they're pretty good colors just in general. Not mad at that at all. All right. The blades probably won't get chipped. I don't think I'm really worried about the blade area. Maybe a little bit. Like I said, err on the side of caution. Go ahead and paint everything with the rust colors, just so you have the flexibility of being able to chip wherever you need to and get that effect. You don't want to go after a place because you're going to put chipping solution all over the whole model, or in this case we are. And if we put chipping solution all over the entire model and go back and chip a place and there's none of the rust color underneath, it's just going to look a lot different than the rest of the model. Because we use a black base coat, it wouldn't always be horrible to do that, but, you know, avoidance is always best. We don't need to rust the captain, so we're just going to clean the brush now and move along to our mid-tone rust colors. We have got the most El Cheapo paper towels in the planet this time, because we ran out of paper towels, so we were just at the cheapo market and bought paper towels. And you would think that cheapo paper towels would, the perf would be really horrible and easy to get out. No, not at all. Not at all. These are the strongest paper towels when trying to take them off of the roll, and then once you get them off the roll, they're literally the worst, cheapest paper towels on the planet. They don't fuzz out, though. They don't have enough padding to be able to get dirty, so that's actually nice. Cake is amazing, Ray, although we went out for dinner and ate too much at dinner, so, I literally didn't have enough in me when I got home to eat much cake. So tonight will be the first real concerted effort at the cake. Jen and I basically just had some forkfuls. There's, maybe one piece of cake gone, because we ate some right as it got out of the oven and cooled enough to eat. And then we went and ate dinner, saw Guardians of the Galaxy, and came home, and neither one of us were in the mood for a big piece of cake. So we went to Macayo's, which is a Mexican place here in town. It is the place where we had our first date. So we went there. Our first ever date, and we went back on my birthday. We eat there all the time. Well, not all the time, but we eat there quite often. And it's right over by the theater. Moved into a house out of your apartment. Fantastic, man. Oh, nice. The garage was closed off. Nice. Yeah, we saw some houses like that would have been really, really perfect for the studio. One big room where I could have done the game room in the same room with this painting, and it would have been awesome, but oh well. So go the days. Snake, what's going on? Chuck, you're out of here. Take it easy, man. Thanks for stopping in. It's not about being soft. They just have good Mexican food, man. Lotus grins. What did grins do? You're working at school and you give them to the kids of your cousins who have pissed me off for one reason or another. You always have a way to get even. I don't even know what you're talking about. I like it already. I like it already. All right, let's move along to dark rust. Right, they're called shadow, dark, medium, and light for the AK rusts. But what they really offer you is various color introductions. The medium is a red on and brown onto the dark brown. Then you get a little bit of yellow as you move into the dark adds red and a little bit of yellow, then more yellow, and then finally the most yellow, right? So you don't have to use them in a stair-step manner. You can introduce colors however you want. I use these to paint rock on bases because it gives you a really good coloration for turf and earth. Turf and earth. Furf and thurf. I've been using them for a long time, but we haven't. I just realized as I was going through and looking at stuff, I was like, you know what? I've never really used these through the airbrush with you guys, so I'll show you how DIMS works. Again, just straight out of the airbrush, not worried about much. And I'm going to start using this in kind of a highlight manner, right? So I'm going to just really spotty, kind of go along these panels, working from the top down. Like I said, we don't really care about even coverage. We just want to get kind of a mottled look on the tank. I nearly said mottled look on the model. That would throw everybody off. Hooray. Notice how I'm wiggling the tip around a lot of the airbrush just so I get very uneven style coverage. I am trying to stay to taller areas, but I'm not doing it like a, you know, a perfect graduation of value. Not necessarily the way Rust works, right? Rust streaks, it can be bright in weird places. We're not worried about light value right now. We're worried about oxidation, so to speak, right? So again, just keep that tip moving. I get good blotchy coverage. See that kind of very spotty texture that we're doing, which is what Rust has. So you got to retrain your brain when you're doing these types of effects, because your brain wants to paint everything very natural, you know, consistent grades and value changes and fades and things like that. And then you come in with this kind of crap and you're like, ah, just screw it up. Make it look like it's all screwed up. And it's some of the hardest stuff to get consistent, quote unquote, consistent looking on your models. You just got to play with it and not be afraid to have weird splotchy paint, bright spots at the bottom and it's instead of on the top, all sorts of crazy crap. Okay, feel like that's pretty good. Good rust color starting to build up. See what I'm doing? A little bit brighter in certain areas here and get the rest, use the rest of the paint out of the, almost to the end of the cup. So bingo. Now we're good. Clean this out. Once you get your head wrapped around the, hey, you don't have to do this step of a model perfectly, it becomes sort of cathartic, right? Because you spend so much time making sure every brush stroke and every airbrush pull is exactly right and on the money and practicing your technique and this and that. And here you can just let loose and be like, bah, screw it. Why the stuff cleans up nice too. Like there's virtually no, once you add a little bit of water and backfill the cup twice, there's virtually no pigment left in the brush. And we've now run 2 pots of this stuff clear through, and I only have a little bit of skinning on the needle. No real dry to speak of like we would with a normal paint. So I'm very happy with these AK stuff. If I can get them in the store, I will. They're not very good about contacting you back. And on top of that, they're really slow in manufacturing. Like everywhere, this stuff is always out of stock. So Frozen Recorder Pack Songbook. Not interested. Not interested! Ray, she took me, so hashtag blame Jen. Got nothing to do with me. What is up, older now, dude? Oh, Snake, damn it. Why's it got to be that way? Why can't we just be the way we were yesterday? Why's it got to be about older and all that? Why is there all these freaking adjectives that we got to use? Why can't we be friends? Why can't we just be friends? All right, again, now with a medium rust, this one just adds a little bit of yellow, so I'm going to start hitting some of the edging areas. Corners. Again, no real rhyme or reason, although I will focus more on panel edges and things when I'm doing the lighter colors. But then I'll still also get all of the top surfaces in a modeled sort of fashion. Very blotchy. Again, I want to keep the brush moving so I don't get like real irregular spidering or anything like that. I'm not trying to make it look like mistakes. You still want it to have a good texture, but not, you know, you're not going to hold your airbrush in one spot and let it build up. Right? Still use good airbrush technique and just kind of use that to put a irregular pattern all over the model. Hell, sometimes you get to the point where you're like, hey, let's just leave it like this. Like, hey, that looks pretty good. Do your whole army in rust. Not a problem. Orcrist out there doing orcs all the damn time. This works. A little bit up underneath. Again, just kind of randomly rotating the model, looking for dark areas, areas where I think I could pop up a little bit more color. Dunzos. Dunzos. All right, one last color to go. We're blowing through this really quick because you're not having to spend a lot of time worrying about placement of color, specificity of line width or anything like that. Value, because we'll valuate the model. We're actually going to pre-highlight it after we go back and add all the chipping solution in. So that part is still to come, which is a little out of process when you really think about it, right? We normally prime the model, pre-highlight the model, and then paint over that. Because of the chipping adds a whole nother process in there, and that has to happen. All of the underbody for the model has to be set up for the chipping first, which is what we're doing now. And this doesn't always, when you're doing it in a rust like this, doesn't always have to follow light values, because each little rust spot, if you think about it, has a texture to it. And so if you were to have a big chunk of paint slough off because of rust underneath and the bare metal is rusting, the texture of that patch of rust on a particular vehicle, piece of armor, whatever, has its own texture and plays with light its own way, and it's very irregular because it's like a little mountain range, right? It's got like a rough pattern to it, so the way light hits it is totally different. It tends to look matte as opposed to shiny. If you've got a rust patch on a shiny piece of metal, the light isn't going to play with it the exact same way as it is on the surrounding surfaces. So we will highlight the green paint that we put on the model completely different than we do the rust. Make sense? So now with the light rust, one last pass. This is pretty freaking yellow. Kind of like a light orange almost. Sherbet. Orange sherbet. Everything is Windows 10's fault? Yes. Everything is Windows 10. The devil. just keep up that irregularity with it, right? Alter your thick and thin spots. Do it like you were doing an irregular camo. As I'm looking at it, it's starting to look like some sort of weird camo setup here, right?
Get down with the clown.
Ow.
Wow! I feel good.
Feeling pretty good about that. Looks good. Good rusty tank. Like it'd been sitting in a field. I mean, we could go back in and wash this and put some greens and purples and grime and dirt all over this, and you could literally just have this be a tank that had been sitting outside forever, and it'd be fine. You'd be dunzos. So if you want to do super rusty armor, there's 4 colors of paint you hit with an airbrush really sloppily, and then you go back and pin wash this with some Nuln Oil and Agrax Earthshade, done deal. Then you pick out some silver bits, bronze, and metallics that are still not all rusty on it, and you can be finish mode. And as you've seen, I haven't added a single bit of thinner to this paint the entire time. No flow improver, no water.
Silly. Just a moment.
Just a moment.
Just a moment.
Just a moment. Redneck tank. What's up? Blame Win 10 and Jen. Yeah, as long as Jen's not here, it's blame Win 10 and Jen. As soon as Jen shows up, just Win 10. Why you paint tank? Because JP Gray, I have to teach you that the world is not all about what you want. I'm just saying.
You are talking about the nonsensical
Absinthe, what's going on?
ravings of a lunatic mind.
My mind
It is. It's
wrong.
Mater. Mater tank.
I can
All right.
feel it.
So there you go. There's good old rusty tank, right? With some really nice fades in it, just being sloppy with the airbrush. You get a really nice consistency to it. You still got some shadow. You still kept my panel lines, because anywhere I was going in, I was focused in on the central aspects of the panel and catching edges with a little bit of overspray, so I get that kind of haloed look, right? A little bit of shadow on things. We're going to do the tracks totally different and the inner road gear totally different, so I'm not worried about those. We're going to do those with some of the other effects paints, right? So again, just making sure we've got good dark areas on the grill here. I left it black in the center for kind of a soot look, so when we go back and strip paint off, like at the top, we'll strip paint back off of the exhaust pipes. And a lot of times the tank exhausts were all painted. So, you know, when you have paint for true military scale models, a lot of times the models themselves, or the reality was that the tanks were painted. Every bit of them was painted. Not a lot of steel showing, right? So not a lot of color other than the paint. So I feel like that's a good. Let's get some chipping
Get down
solution
with
ready
the
to go.
clown.
We're not going to spread the chipping solution through the Neo. We're going to do it through our Grex.
I feel good.
A little bit larger aperture on the Grex. I primed with the Grex, so I need to run a couple load of paint through it real quick just to make sure I'm not got any of that heavy polymer primer in there still.
I know a website that shows monkeys.
You don't. You don't either, Snake. You don't. You're a lying liar who lies. Gotta go cut your front lawn. What? What? Viking? This is not the time of day that you cut your lawn. Do that on the weekend, man.
If it's good enough for my butt, it should be good enough for my nose.
What that says to me
Big stacks of the stuff.
is that your lawn is more important. Absent, this is from Rivet Wars. Yes, this is the Allied Super Heavy Tank. LT says needs more grots. That's what Orcris said too, is that it needed more grots. I have a feeling we're going to see a lot of these popping up with grots on them in the near future. I think that's a thing. All right, so last time we did this, we airbrushed it straight. We're not going to do that anymore. We're going to read it and see if it says paint or primer where chipping will be, and when dry, apply second final coat of water-based acrylic paint. Yes, we know this. It doesn't say anything about how to thin it, so I'm just going to... I think we're going to do it with water. I don't think I'm going to use the flow improver, right? Because of the drying retarder. I think we're just going to use straight up agua and see how it works. So this is for science. Here we go. For science! Give to me a drop of water. I hate these squirt bottles when I'm trying to get just a little bit of water out of them. They don't like to do that. They like to, like, put all the freaking water out at once. So let's not do that this time, Fuse. Let's just go derp. Agua. Agua. Alright. Here we go. Here goes nothing. For science. Everybody hold your breath. Oh yeah, much smoother going on the model this time around. Now if it just retains its chipping capabilities after putting it on the model, that'll be good. Right? That's where the proof is in the pudding. Gotta be careful with this. You don't want to build up too much, but you want to make sure that you get it on all of the surfaces as evenly as possible, so you give yourself the opportunity to chip everywhere. I mean, it goes without saying, you don't get the chipping solution on there, there's not a chance to chip. Right? Alright, just want to make sure I get the entire lip of the turret there. Commander's hatch. All you got to do is pay attention to where you're getting moisture on the model, because obviously this has no color. It's completely transparent. So your only guide is to be very, very careful and watch where you get that wet look and try to keep that wet look consistent across the entire surface of the model. Don't let it pool and build up too crazy anywhere. And this is obviously going to dictate, you know, where are you going to get chipping. So if you've got areas that you might have painted with your undercoat that you don't want to chip, just don't put this on there, right? But I prefer to do the whole model, so I have options. I don't like to limit myself. The chipping solution won't change the way paint adheres if you don't chip. Does that make sense? If you choose that, you know, you just want to have, there's going to be a bunch of this model that won't have chipping on it. And that this, putting the chipping solution on those parts really doesn't matter. If you don't reactivate it and don't apply the chipping technique to it, then just let it set up for a day or two, and those areas will be perfectly fine. You won't have to worry about them chipping later, anything like that. So very, very safe to use on all surfaces. And that way, like I said, you give yourself the opportunity to use it and chip where you need to, but you're not forced to. And normal surfaces will look just as good as anything. And you'll notice how we're not getting any texture this time, if you guys can see that. There's no texture going on the model. It's just a nice, smooth, clean, translucent surface. Whereas last time when we didn't thin this stuff with water and we blasted it through the airbrush, we were getting really crazy chipping and spidering and things like that. The stuff's just too thick. It's built to be able to use with a brush or an airbrush, and because of that, you gotta thin it. It just didn't work right at all for us out of the airbrush last time. It put way too much texture on the model. Going back and reinforcing some of these areas, make sure I got it all where I need it. Feel like everything's shiny. It will have a satin finish to it, so it helps you once it's drying. You can see that everything's remaining kind of shiny, so you just want to rotate it through. Make sure you're seeing shine in all the areas that you want to chip. Feel like we're pretty good. Seeing everything on the fenders is good. That's a big point. Side skirts. Track running gear, underside of the fenders maybe. Turret, make sure we get this edge of the bottom edge of the turret really well. And the top edge of the commander's hatch here. Feel like we are go. All systems nominal. Systems nominal. Run through the last of the pot, build up a little bit more on here. You don't want to do like 2 full coats. It takes it forever to get to where it's unworkable, you know, fully cured on the model. But I feel like that's pretty good. All right, good. Bingo. We got through that in record time. Rusty, chipping solution, covered tank. Now, clean the frickin' airbrush. Just like you ran varnish through it. Clean the freaking airbrush. If you don't believe me, look at the way this thing has like sticky bubbles forming on the inside of the cup. This, even though this is a water-based paint, I don't trust this as far as I can kick it for not screwing your airbrush up. So make sure to run airbrush cleaner, not just water, but go and get your cleaner out and run it through your brush. No joke. Whereas I would normally let regular paint, after cleaning and changing colors, I would just set a pot of water in the airbrush, blow a little bit through there, and be fine. Not with this crap. Run a couple of bowls of airbrush cleaner through it. And then let it sit off to the side with the airbrush cleaner in it still. Roger. Am I coming through loud and clear? Don't screw up your airbrush, kiddos. Bingo.
That dog's as subtle as a hand grenade in a barrel of oatmeal.
Naked Puzzle Basement. What's going on, girl? Naked Puzzle Basement sent us an edible arrangement of so much fruit that I don't know how in the world we're going to eat it. Thank you, my friend. It's like this big, humongous, like, bowl of, or pot of fruit plant. It's hilarious. It's awesome. Thank you, my friend. That was awesome. Assassin, we don't do whip until an hour in, so you're good. You got another 15 minutes or so. Googly eyes on the tank. Psychotic, this is the Allied Super Heavy tank for Rivet Wars. Rivet Wars is the game by Cool Mini or Not. And this is the Allied Super Heavy, the Axis Super Heavy, the Joymans. This is the American tank, obviously. And this is the Joymans. The Joymans self-propelled gun. Right? They're like the most expensive units in the game and wreck face. So, and the characters are these little, like, fat Lego dudes. Right? That's why I call it a chibi tank. It's just cute little Lego guys. But the game is lots of fun. It really is lots of fun. I ain't gonna lie. I use a little bit of air here to go back in and just make sure that we are setting up okay. This stuff gets to where it's not tacky on the model pretty quick. So I don't feel like you have to do a whole lot of waiting. The more time you wait, the less chipping effect you'll get, because as this stuff cures, right, you just want it to be not sticky, and nothing's sticky on the model right now, right? So it's already all set up and good. But I'm going to hit it with a little bit of air just to get the crevices, creases, dry these little inset spots. All right, don't have to spend a lot of time doing this, but just a little bit. But by and large, this thing is dry, right? Like, not any tackiness to it. And that's what you need. And as this stuff cures, the less chipping effect you'll get out of it, is what I was trying to say earlier. So if you were to just spray right now, like take a rattle can and spray green, like olive drab over this thing, and let the olive drab start to dry, and then start chipping, you get big chunks of paint because the chipping solution hasn't cured at all, or minimally. If you then spray a coat of paint on here like we're going to do, we're going to spray it, then we're going to highlight it and work it through as if it were still just a primered tank. As a matter of fact, the first thing I'm going to do is do some pre-highlighting on this, okay? So we're going to do our white pre-highlight over the top. Over the top! Right? And as we do that, you just paint it like a regular tank, and because it takes longer to get that process done, by the time our top coat is all dry, when we go to chip it, we will get smaller chips, which is kind of what you want in miniature. There's not much call for needing, you know, huge chunks out of it. If you do, I feel like you can paint those easier than you can do it with a chipping solution. Okie doke, so let's do our greens. Do for the greens. And the first thing we got to do, like I said, is set up our pre-highlight on the tank. On the tank. So we need some whites.
Let's get to the point.
Get to the point, damn it! So just like any model, we're going to set up a value highlight on it that is going to look very, very strange because we're going right over rust color as opposed to black primer. So it's going to look funky, but it's going to work. I'm going to float the hell out of it. Flow improver too. Ah! World's best brush right here. Telling you.
Get down with the clown.
You get down with a clown, you bastards. Tell me what to do. It's not, you're not the boss of me.
Thank you for a very enjoyable game.
You're not the boss of me. Death by Donut, it was great. Thank you so much. Glad you guys got to spend it with me yesterday. As you guys dropped by, we went out and had a great dinner and went and saw Guardians of the Galaxy. They're not going to get me to put Google. I don't even have googly eyes in the house. Jen probably does, but I don't. Put a rhino next to it, LT? Yeah, it's tiny. Her scale. Is that what you want to see? It's very small. It's a Grot tank. LT, I think Orcrist already beat you to it. Orcrist is already going and ordering up all of the Rivet Wars tanks. Why am I getting spotting? I don't like you. I don't like you, white paint. I don't like you. I'm going to clean this pot out. I'm not real secure in the fact that this pot of paint is going to do what we want it to do, so we're going to start over. Err on the side of caution, especially with white. You guys hear me say that all the time, but white paint, absolutely bane of my existence. Not interested in fighting with it today. We're going to clear that chamber. Ashman, you had to miss the stream. I remember you saying something like you wouldn't be around. Thank you so much, my friend. JP Gray, why did you spend money on Infinity's store? Why would you do that, dude? I keep telling you guys you can special order your miniatures from me. You probably get them quicker. Like, if you were buying into the specials, yesterday I lauded the specials over there as being good, but you know, if you're not international, I don't know that I would take part in them, right? I think Absinthe went and showed that the shipping, your costs are almost as much as you get them for free shipping over here. So, but okay. All right, let's start over again. Put less paint in. I put like 3 or 4 drops of this paint. This white is super, super thick from Army Painter, so I probably just overextended myself. Use a different brush too. We used our other brush, and I haven't cleaned it 100% from that chipping solution, so that might have been an issue too. Didn't think about that. Cross-contaminated our paints here by mixing the paint in the cup with our standard best paint brush in the world. Not realizing that by doing that with the chipping solution, we might have caused ourselves some problemos. Man, there is something screwed up here. There we go. There we go. We had a gunner on the needle, too. All right, so like everything that we always do, we're just going to come in and start building up some highlight. All right, we'll do a highlight on the top of the turret. Do a cool kind of bright highlight edge to edge on the top of the commander's hatch. Keep building up. And it's speckling again. What the freaking hell, airbrush? Feel like there's absolutely nothing wrong that I can see, and yet it's acting like a bitch. Okay, this is gonna piss me off. I'm thoroughly convinced it's Army Painter's white. I hate to say that, but I am thoroughly convinced that the Army Painter white is garbage through the airbrush. I said I liked it when we first started using it, and the more I do it, the more I have to fight this speckling, the more I'm convinced that it's garbage. Because this brush is perfectly clean right now, and yet we're getting nothing but crappy speckling through it. Yeah, this is gonna wear me out quick today. Good thing we're not actually trying to paint this white, or I'd be real angry right about now. Build up some brighter white right on the top of the turret, obviously, where our brightest highlight will be, across the top of the barrel. Just give it some shine. And these corners, top of this doohickey. Smokestacks. Smokestacks. A little bit panel highlight right in the middle of the panel with a glare shadow out towards the edges. And then here, much like we do with a regular miniature, we're just going to go through and angle the brush down onto these panels so that we get a little bit of glow down the side. I just want to get a little bit of a haze down the side. So I'm focusing on this ridge across the top of the track guards, right? That'll be where the most white goes, and then we just kind of feather it down the side just to give it a little bit of a glow. Middle. A little bit of shine right down. This thing curves out on the side, so just a little bit of shine right down the middle of that curve that matches with the gleam that we put in the turret up here. Right. Again, just a little bit of gleam on those cylinders. And then keep catching these edges, building up paint on the edges, and then feathering down out of that edge. Little gleam on this cylinder as well. God, the spattering. Throw it away. There, and a little bit of a triangle glow at the bottom of the turret here. You just want to kind of with a little bit of gleam on that turret. Right. These barrels. Trying to pick up little gleam spots as we can. Not to go crazy, but enough to give it a cool shadow. Set up so that gives us some good spots for highlight. And now greens. Now we paint it like we mean it and get away from this freaking white before I pull my hair out. If I could find one manufacturer that knew how to make white, I'd be happy.
I honestly think you ought to sit down calmly.
So
Take
relax.
a stress pill and think things over.
Thank you, Puzzle Basement. I'm playing so much with the brush, feels like you're watching Kenny playing so much with the brush. It's just because we're doing white. Kenny's brush is just dirty all the time. Kappa. It's what we get for running 4 pots of rust color through it without cleaning it, because we were using really good paint from AK. Will you be seeing Rivet Wars on stream, Ray, as far as like playing the game? No, we don't have the full game here. I played it at the local store. But I don't know that we'll bring it in. Maybe. If anybody was interested in small games like that, it'd be fun.
I'm a fatality.
Spicy Hawaiian pizza with Cajun crust. That sounds horrible. Sorry, I hate Hawaiian pizza. It's not pizza. Pizza, hashtag not pizza. They put pineapple on it, it's no longer pizza, my friend. I'm just an old guy, man. You get these things that say they're pizza and it's not pizza, and you get like beer that isn't beer, stuff like that. It's like, why does everything have to be hipster, man? Why do you have to have so many flavors on it? If you like pineapple, have pineapple with your dessert and eat a real man pizza. Pineapple pizza isn't pizza, Lotus. We are pineapple bigots around here. Not even a thing, man. Not even, no matter what you guys say, you can't convince me. That whole trend set by California Pizza Kitchen back in the day, it's all a lie. It's all a lie. Okay, JP, for a man that doesn't even know chili and like chili, you have no space to talk. I was grown in Texas, born and bred in Texas, right? And we know how to make chili, and you put beans in chili. You don't have to put beans in chili, but you definitely put beans in chili. You being from where you're from and not even liking chili gives you no room to talk. So we don't even listen to JP when he mentions chili. What about dessert pizza when it's like Nutella and strawberry? Still, it's not pizza. It's a dessert, right? It's a flatbread. You can be flatbread. They use that word, right? Flatbreads are flatbreads, and you can do anything you want to with them. You can put whatever you want to on them, but it ain't pizza. But okay, the real Ashman, you know, you probably told me this, but which airbrush that you use, do you prefer over the Grex or the Iwata Neo? Oh, okay, because you're about to pull the trigger on an airbrush, no pun intended. You like both, but Iwata, you can get cheaper than the Grex. Yeah, the Neo is much cheaper than the Grex, like by $150, sometimes $200, right? I like the Iwata Neos, so I don't, the cake is a lie, says Ma. Yeah, it might be, right? That's a tough one, right? Because I feel like if you have the money to spend, buy the Grex. The Grex is the better brush. I get the exact same control out of the Grex that I do out of the Iwata Neo. I don't get as fine of a spray with the 3.0 needle out of the Grex because the taper on the needle is different. At least I believe that's the big issue there. It's a standard 3.0 on the Grex. Whereas the Iwata Neo has been built for, it apparently, for doing very fine detail work. And the taper on the needle is different. The nozzle is different on the way it accepts that taper, obviously. And so you get a much finer line with the same technical diameter needle. And so I appreciate both. But it just is going to be what you decide. You could buy a Grex and put a 2.0 needle in a Grex and get the same precision that you do with the Iwata Neo and have a much better brush, right? Because the material quality is better on the Grex. It's just more solid. It feels better. It doesn't give you the same... well, I can't say issues because I don't have issues with the Iwata. So I guess I would err on the side, like, depending on what your budget is, if you can afford the Grex, buy the Grex. If you would prefer to spend less money, buy the Neo, and you're fine. That make sense? JP is the stupidest troll on the planet. I'm just going to come out and tell you, JP. Stupidest troll on the planet. Talking about beans and chili and that he owns a much better airbrush. Because he spent more money does not make it better. Yeah, the Grex and the 2.0 needle conversion will give you tremendous control, plus the flexibility of changing your needle size, a much better gun in the long run. The reason why I've been using the Neos is because I like the way they feel, I like the precision I'm getting out of them, and it started off as just a way to test it all long term, and now I'm running with it. So let's take a look at some whip real quick. I can't spend a ton of time because I want to make sure we get back and start doing some base coating because we got chipping solution drying here. But let's go over exclamation point whip in chat. And let's take a look at what you guys are doing. Since it is Whip Wednesday. There's the first one. Right here. What is this? What is this crazy thing? Dathar, Rat Ogre, ripping another player in half. Holy hell, that's a spine. Or a gut thing. Sculpted the guts out of epoxy. Hell yeah, man. That is disgusting, by the way. Like legit disgusting. That's awesome. That's disgusting, but I love it. Ripping a player in half. So he has the ball because he's got the player that's actually holding the ball in a rictus grip, like death grip over here, because he tore him in half. That's freaking brilliant. Oh God, that makes me want to puke. Look at the entrails. That's hilarious. That's hilarious, man. I love it. The blood is bleh. Bleh. Edge highlight, looking good, man. Looking really good. Looking really good. When you're doing the glow on the eyes, rather than treating it like an edge highlight like you've got, no pun intended with your name, but rather than treating it like a stark edge highlight like you've got, try a very light dry brush around here, building up as you go. Start with a darker color and glaze the darker color on there like you have here, but it'll give you a little less of a defined line around the eye like this, right? Because you've got this very square edge along the line of the eye. And since it's a glow, you know, go in and glaze so it blurs that line. You could still glaze and blur that line. It's going to be a little bit bigger than you want it because your line comes, you know, a full millimeter out or so away from the eye, but you could still do it. Glaze it so it's, you know, it's blended along that surface. And then when you go back with a small dry brush with a lighter blue, then you're just catching that edge. Does a tremendous job. This looks great, but that's just kind of that next step for you, I think, is to get this to look a little less painted and more like the glow that you were going for. But I love it. Looks good. Great adherence to the box art, man. Good to work. Edge highlight also coming in. I have no idea what this is, but it's awesome. I don't know what this model is, but I dig it. I feel like this is probably from some alternate mini company? Question mark? I don't know what this is, but I really dig it. The more I stare at it, the more I like it. Like, what's going on here with the Tyrannid claws and the 4 arms and the crazy boots? This is a bitchin' model, man. Where's this come from? This is neat. I like the color choices, too. The green hair and the yellow. Looks awesome. I really dig this. Let us know where that's from. Cool model. Assassin Red don't really have the drive to do much to them. Please help. What? What is this? Please help. You're killing it, man. What do you mean you don't have a lot of drive? Have you just lost the muse to paint right now? Because I get that all the time. Trust me. I would not force these models if that's the case. Build something else. Play something else. Go play a video game. Do something else and don't over-force it. Because these look great as they go. I mean, your paint work is getting much, much better. Your reds are really defined. I like them. I can see the highlight working into the shadows. I think if you wanted to right now, you could do kind of the grunt work of relining your blacks, right? You got a little bit of red over into the black areas in a couple spots. You could just go redefine your blacks. That's tedious work, but when you're having problems with finding motivation, sometimes that's the way to go because it doesn't take a lot of thought. You just got to get black in there, right, to eliminate a little bit of these red overflows into the black. But no, these are looking great, man. Good base coats. Like I said, if you've gotten to the point where you feel like you are done putting paint on a model and that you're at a loss as to what to do next, don't force it because you could really easily ruin a model and then be really unhappy with it and get to a point where you're like, screw it, and not want to touch it ever. And that happens to the best of us. And they'll have models that sit on the shelf for years because you did that, and then you're like, I guess I got to go back and fix that model. So, but these look really good. Really good. You can start glazing in highlights on your reds. Start practicing that, although I don't know how far along you are in wanting to try new techniques. But, yeah, I'm digging them. This guy, you could glue his other ear on. I kid. Those Nomad antenna are pains in the ass. Butt shot. Yeah, they're looking good, man. I like the red, the transition on the highlights on the red with a little bit of orange in there looking good. Yeah, these are looking good. Square up your reds. Spend time, getting your blacks back in shape. And then figure out how you're going to go in and do the finish work on the reds, areas that you're going to do in whites. I assume you're going to have some white on here, maybe not. Maybe you could plan that out, but don't force it. If you're at a point where you're stuck, don't try to unstick yourself by throwing paint at a model that you're already frustrated with. Never a good thing. Snake Man, need 3 more highlights on Ninja, but do you need to tone down the tatas, and how would you? This is not a ninja. And there are no tatas. This is the incorrect photo. These are either mad traps or, yeah, these are mad traps. Viking Teabagger, booth at Reptile Show. That was what you did over the weekend, was the Reptile Show. That's freaking awesome. Look at this. Captive bred geckos. That's awesome, dude. Very, very cool, man. I like this a lot. You guys have a great booth set up, man. That's awesome. So you breed these? That's insanity, man. I didn't know that. That's great. Look at this one. That's amazing. I love the eye. The I am looking at you. I love it, man. How'd it go? Hopefully it was good. Okay, Snake Man, Whip, need 3 more highlights on Ninja, but I do need tone down the tatas, and how would you?
My mind is going. I can feel it.
So I guess the picture's showing me a lot of shadow from the camera. So I can't give you 100% on this, but right now, from what I'm seeing, it looks like the breast area is as white as the top of the head. If you're going for white on the breast, then you're fine. If you're not, if it's trying to be shiny black, then you just need to glaze black paint back over it to tone it back down. Just very, very thin black paint or whatever color you're using on the rest of the armor here, and just start glazing over it to tone it back. Right? That's your best bet. Because right now, yeah, the value looks like here. And if you're going for white or shiny black on the top of the head and the breast, then yeah, you need to tone it down just a little bit. Shiny black will have narrow bands of bright white. It won't have big, huge splotches of it. I mean, I guess it could, depending on the shape. It was a big circle. The breast is spherical, but you don't want to put that much highlight because on a miniature model, it starts to lose its semblance of texture and starts to look like paint dropped right there. So, doing reptile stuff for 8+ years, nice, man. But this is looking good. I'm liking the highlights on the black, right? Kind of a good dusty, dirty black. Those are looking really good. You got a very over-the-top way of holding your miniatures, man. You got upside-down GW paint pots with corks glued to them, and then green stuffed bases or puttied the bases to the top there. That's a hell of a tower of power right there, man. Viking Teabagger, Whip started for Friends Space Wolves commission. You've been working on these for a while, man. I dig the Space Wolf gray that you're doing, for sure. That red really blasts its way out of there, too, man. That's hard. I like it. Yeah, keep us posted on how these go. The airbrush work looks great. Oh, that tank. Look at those lights. I love the headlights, man. Your glow is fantastic. Masking tape wanted to peel under pressure from airbrush spray when doing black. Were you using blue mask or the regular masking tape? I don't like masking tape, to be honest with you. It has too much tack to it. It's built, like the blue painter's masking tape is built not for acrylics, it's built for like enamels, right? So I feel like it tears paint off at the level that we do work because we use very thin coats, and when you use it on like a wall, it doesn't take enough paint off to make a difference. But if you look at the back of like blue masking tape, when you peel it off of a painted wall, it still has a little bit of paint on it. It's just that the wall paint is so thick that generally you don't tear enough off to be able to tell the difference. So, green frog tape. Yeah, I'm not a fan of any of that stuff. So you're talking about like here on your hazard stripes? Yeah, it's tough. Probably just use the card. I know it's a hassle though. Oh, what did I do? What did I do? What did I hit the back button for? That was not the right button. Fuse. Do better. Started the purple skin now. Oh, holy hell. Look at that. That I'm digging. I like the colors with the gold and the purple on it. Whose is this? Who belongs to this? This is awesome. Anthony. And magnetized together. Nice. Yeah, I'm digging the purple. It'd be interesting to see where you go with the purples as far as your highlights go up against that blue. I dig it, though. Very nice. Oh, and the purple Tyranid in the background, too. Good colors. Naked Puzzle Basement. First time ever candy striping. I like the hazard stripes, man. You did good. Seeing both of you guys do them. I'm loving the yellow, the detail on the yellow with the fade. Right? Very, very good. Coming in from that kind of orangish brown into the bright yellow. Very, very nice. Good work. Yeah, both you and Viking Teabagger necking it out of the park with the hazard stripes. I love it. Good the stuff. Working on some Dark Age Drill Worms and Wormfather, one of the most dirty 500-point lists. Yeah, Drill Worms are horrible. Horrible. They've got like a laser beam thing, don't they? These guys are fucking crazy. Nice. I like the sand colors too. Very cool. Your haul from the Kickstarter campaign that you've not gotten around to painting. Rocket Chicken. Holy hell, man. Yeah, you got Rivet Wars coming out your ears, man. Out your freaking ears. Heavy metal. I think that's what this box is called, is heavy metal. With the tanks, right? I think that's what we're painting today, is the tanks out of that box set, heavy metal. Nice, man. Very cool. You literally have all of it. Have you played it yet? Because it's a great game. Lots of fun. Shockalore Bloodbeard, check out the ATC trophies you're working on. Hell yeah, man. I like this a lot. These look fantastic. I think I saw some of this on Facebook that you were posting. Either that or on Instagram. I can't remember. One or both. These look awesome, man. Absolutely awesome. Where did these sculpts come from? Did you make that yourself? I dig it. I dig it. Phantasmal. All right, keep uploading your stuff. We will come back to it in just a bit. Gonna get some paint laid down on this because we got chipping solution working. So the first thing we're gonna do is start out with our olive green. All right, that's gonna be our shadow color. And remember, we're doing weird shit here, right? Because we've already painted it with all the rust color that we want to show through. We then did the chipping solution, and now we've done a white highlight back over that. So it looks all funky right now. Trust in me. Trust in me. I will lead you to the promised land. No, I won't. I'm lying. But it sounded good. Paint, flow improver, you know the drill. Clean it all. Clean the world's most amazing brush off real quick. And then use the world's most amazing brush to mix out our paint. Again, trying to keep the paint as low in the cup as possible just so you don't dirty your cup up too much. I use this shitty synthetic brush because it doesn't soak up a lot of paint, if anybody wonders. That, and also you're just cramming it down in there, so you don't want to use like a $15 brush in there for any reason at all. All right, and so now what we're going to do is, yes, you guessed it, base coat the entire model. So right over all the rust. Now you're going to paint it like you would any other model. Right, as if we just started over primer. And we're using this olive because it's a great shadow color for military greens, even though it's a lot darker, it has more blue in it than you might normally want. It's just a great shader color. So we're going to lay it in pretty thick. We're also running it really light so that when we get up on the top, all we're doing is tinting those highlight areas where our white paint was the brightest. But in the areas where we got shadow, we can drop it in and kind of build it up. I'm going to go ahead and paint the barrels of the guns green right now as well. Like I said earlier, on most tanks, you're not going to have like metallic barrels. They're going to be painted the same color as the rest of the tank. So we're going to go with that first, and then as we get more and more done on the tank, we'll come back and kind of make decisions on where to go. But no, it's not. Yeah, we're getting some cracking. Maybe a little wet. It's one of the risks you run when you do the chipping solution, is that we're using very, very light, wet paint. So it might go ahead and do some cracking for us right here out of the gates. So we don't want to build up too much. We want to go in very light coats. Try not to get any pooling that will affect that chipping solution. So just lightly tint things and then come back. Those areas where I'm building up too much paint are already activating the chipping solution and causing it to act like a crackle paint almost. We just want to kind of do this. Lightly dust it first. Smokestacks, everything right now. Definitely don't want to upset the surface up here, so I'm going to go ahead and use a little bit of air right after applying paint just to get it to cure real quick so that water doesn't reactivate the chipping solution. On some of the surfaces, I'm not as worried about it, but definitely not on this turret. I don't want to have any kind of crinkling or crazy spidering due to the chipping activating underneath. We can avoid that just by using the air with no paint. Right? The whole paint, 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 air, air, air. Air, 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 paint, paint, paint. Keep it going, keep it going. Surprised nobody's done like a beatbox meme or something with that yet. Yeah, see, it started to, I don't know if you guys can see, but it starts to activate the chipping solution up underneath there if I go too heavy real quick. Try to keep it from doing that too much if I can. Not going to matter a whole lot because this is just our shadow color. With our other colors that come over next, we'll go over the top of that, but that spidering that happens will still poke through and give us a texture no matter how much we cover it up with paint. So we just got to be careful to not overload this with too much wet. Out of paint. A place selling the old Eugene Guija sculpt. You plan on buying the newer one, but you kind of want the old one. So should you just wait and buy the newer one, or go big and go home? I don't know what you're talking about, Assassin. If you like the old sculpt, feel free to use it. I don't like the old sculpt. Too turtly. The new one has size and bulk to it that feels more like the new miniatures. There's not much of the old line I like enough to say go get it, right? That doesn't mean you can't or shouldn't. If you like it, buy it. It also gives you the ability to field two of them, and they would actually look different on the field, which is cool. I do like that idea, right? You know, like in the JSA list, if you could run two Oyorais, you know, you could have, if they had an old sculpt for that, you could run both sculpts, and that would be kind of cool. So I'm all for that idea. But yeah, it just is one of the case of what you like. I like the new one a lot better. And I don't ever plan on running two. If I'm going to run two tags in a Yuching list, I'd run a Guija and a Oyorai, which I have both. So that kind of answers that question. But you can, in vanilla, you can field multiples of the Guija if you wanted to. I'm one of those guys that's like, we talk about rule of cool around here all the time. Live by it, man. If you like it, if you think it's cool looking, freaking go for it. Don't let me tell you any different. There's people out there that love old sculpts of miniatures from other game systems, you know, and sometimes those sculpts to me aren't appealing, but if you like them and they have historic value to you, or they bring back memories, or what the hell ever, man, go for it. Like I said, for me, generally, if I'm going to go buy an old sculpt, it's going to be because it gives me variety in my list, because I'm running two of them, and one of them can be old and one of them can be new, kind of thing. Kind of a narrative in my head sort of deal. Miniatures are there to be loved and have fun with, man, so do you. Turret real quick.
Let me have one of those porno magazines.
Porno mag.
Large box of condoms.
Condoms.
A bottle of Old Harper.
Harper.
A couple of those panty shields.
I never understand the panty shields. That's very disturbing.
One of those disposable enemas.
Only one?
No, make it two.
All right. Somebody says we're partying. All right, now we're starting to get rid of the rust. We'll come back with a second coat. Hit all these areas up again. We want to sink as much of that rust color as we can, because it's not there to be seen on the top layer. It's be seen through the chips. We just keep sinking it down using this shadow green. But you can tell how our pre-highlight works now. We're getting the bright greens where we need them, but we still got a little bit of the rust showing through. We want to eliminate as much of that as we possibly can. Gives it more impact as it starts coming through the chips that we will create, as opposed to just being on the model all the time. Stacks from the back here. All these shadow areas up underneath the barrel. Again, we hit that with all that rust color, so we got to be sure we drop this green over it. Otherwise, as we start adding more and more layers of highlight, those areas in shadow where we don't throw any green will start to really, really pop with more rust than we want. And like I said, we're not trying to have the rust really blast through the green, except where we scratch the paint up. right? So if it's still giving it an undertone of brown, in some places that's okay, like down towards the bottom, I'm all right with that, but not up high, really. Some places it does accentuate the shadows. It's kind of up to you how you let those colors play, but we'd prefer to have it be more like this, where we have very little brown coming through the green. Still got a little bit in our highlight areas. All right. But overall, you're trying to sink all of that rust and still let that pre-shade peek through. Turret was the last thing we painted on the first go round. Go ahead and amp it up with more green. And we're done, because we're out of paint, but that looks good. So we've got a good nice base of the dark green on there, pulls everything back into shadow, eliminates a lot of that rust color, and sinks it. And now we'll start moving on to our other greens, where we start highlighting. How do I feel about silly putty masking ray? Sorry, just now looking up there. Silly putty I like blue tack better. Silly putty has an oily kind of a residue to it, whereas the blue tack does not. Blue tack is completely dry. So I prefer blue tack, or white tack is what we have around here. But, you know, they both work well. They work really well for masking, you know, more organic shapes or curves and things like that than they do for straight surfaces. Like masking for hazard stripes is rough with blue tack and silly putty, because getting a straight edge out of them is a little bit of a disaster, right? But in those cases, one of the things that I use the most is striping tape and cardstock. Striping tape that you can get that people use for airbrushing pinstripes on cars. It comes in various thicknesses. It has very, very little tack and no residue, but it's not like super, super wide. So you would basically like lay down a piece of cardstock and then run the tape along the edge. The cardstock prevents overspray from getting on the model, and the tape is what actually gives you your painting edge. So you can look at liners tape. That's a really good solution. It's vinyl liners tape. So I feel like that's probably your best solution in the long term. But if you are in a pinch, you know, you can use masking tape. But like Viking said, sometimes it pulls the paint off. You know, you could take the time, if you have patience, you can paint like your yellow stripes, let them fully cure, and then paint the first layer of stripes, remove the tape, let all that fully cure, 48 hours, right? Put some varnish on it, matte varnish, that stuff, let the varnish cure, 48 hours. 4 days later, come back and put tape over the yellow and paint the black, or vice versa, whatever you're doing. And then you're pretty rest assured that you're not going to pull paint up, but I don't have that patience. G-Man, am I selling those kind of brushes? What are we talking about? Which brushes? Zeb, what's going on? What if you don't know what Armageddon means? It's not the end of the world. Bastard, Zeb. Viking Teabagger, how long ago did Infinity start that they have that many old sculpts? About 10 years? Yeah, about 10 years. I'm pretty sure. Keep it this color and have the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man coming out of it. This color or the brown that it was before? What are we talking about? I'm not going to watch that, Snake. Send it to me in a message. I don't click on it during the stream. You get to deal with you tonight, resurrected along with the other problem kids. I had a great birthday. Thanks. Good to see you. A nice infinity green. Difference between Tester's dull coat and Model Master's lusterless flat. I don't find much of a difference at all. I use both interchangeably. Kenny has told me that the dull coat, that you have to be careful in humid situations because it'll spot, but I find that true of any spray paint, so kind of test it first. Test the testers. We sell dull coat on the site because the Model Master's lusterless flat is getting very scarce. So, but I use both. I did the dull coat, the Dragiri ice cast that we did that went in the Nova Open charity deal. Those were all done with the dull coat. So I use it on anything. Oh, G-Man. Yeah, sorry. No, I don't sell those, man. They'd be way too expensive. Kappa. Kappa. All right, so we got a good coat of green worked up on there. Now we move on to our military colors, and the first color is Cam Dark Green. All right, so Cam Dark Green is really the base coat that we're looking for, but this gives us the olive green gives us a good shadow. We're going for more military kind of olive drabby greens, believe it or not, even though this kind of bright green that's sitting on the tank right now doesn't show that. That's our base, right? Now we're going in with a Cam Dark, and the Cam Dark Green is, you know, much more specific as far as like a American tank color as a base coat, but we'll run it thin so that some of the olive green shows through. And again, you know, we always say go darker than you want, because notice how the olive green, notice how bright it is, right? Over our pre-highlight. And the olive green is a super dark color. That's the color we just sprayed on this tank. And yet you don't really get a feel for that color anywhere on it, right? Because the rust colors lighten it up and the pre-highlight lighten it up. Gotcha. All right, here we go. Gonna start lightening up. It's gonna darken everything about the tank now. It's gonna shove a lot of what was already dark into real deep shadow, and it's going to pull these highlights into the tone that we were looking for. All right, so notice how it takes the sheen right off of that turret. Barrel now. Look at the sides of the turret. Can you tell the difference? Right, from over here to over here. We're starting to get that kind of drab yellow color brought into our greens with this Cam Dark Green.
Somebody likes us.
Hey! BC Legend, what's going on? Thank you for the follow. Welcome to the family, my friend. We are doing some chibi tank painting. Tank from Rivet Wars. And that sounds like a Jin. Huh? To sneak in? So you bang around and get Jen turned up here. Zoinks. Hello, baby. Anybody that's new here, that's Jen. Say hi, Jen.
Hi, everybody. Can't be here too long. Cassie's gonna be here soon.
You got a what?
I gotta take Cassie to the airport.
Oh, that's right. Is she here?
No, she'll be here in like half hour, 45
oh, okay.
minutes. Probably.
Gotcha. Again, just want to sink all of these brighter green areas down into this color, right? So you can see immediately, look at the turret versus the rest of the tank, right? We're starting to get that drab color and do away with the bright greens. The bright greens are just there as a value setting on the tank. They're not there for color, right? That's that white showing up. And now we're kind of applying the real color of the tank on here. But we're still running this really thin so that our bright spots still show through. All of our panel highlighting still shows through. It'll just continue to darken it all up.
I know a website that shows monkeys doing it.
No, you don't. Not even a thing. Not even a thing.
Let me have one of those porno magazines.
Porno magazine.
Large condo.
This is how they welcome you to the stream. They're like, hey, Jen, how you doing? Read this.
And some illegal fireworks, and one of those disposable enemas.
Only one?
Make it two.
Okay.
If it's good
Now
enough for my
it's
butt, it should be good
party.
enough for my nose. And you can get big stacks of the stuff.
Feel like that's not sound logic.
I'm a fatality.
You are talking about the nonsensical ravings of a lunatic mind.
And Harry Potter and all his wizard friends went straight to hell for practicing witchcraft.
Get them all
Get
out.
down with the clown.
Good God.
We just did that.
Good God, people.
Who the hell are you?
Jen shows up, and it's like
Ay,
all the
ay.
sounds. Who the hell are you? Again, just sinking greens. That's all we're doing right now.
8 billion times, and I have no plans to stop masturbating in the future.
Call him a rookie.
Psychotic Gesture just said, we get bored here. Well,
Feel like you're doing it wrong. Feel like you're doing it wrong. Alright. Now you can get a feel for colors we got going on a little bit more. I turn this into a little bit more of a mixed light. Feel like you guys can see more of what I'm seeing. Right? Versus this. This side over here is what we had, what we started with. Now you see that when we layer the cam dark green, this is what we get. Right? Still some bright spots, right? But now we're putting the military color, so to speak, all over the tank. Rather than kind of a cartoony green. And we still got to work fast because we got that chipping solution setting up. We want to be able to get our highlights all the way done so that we can get in and do our chips. And we're going to do that before the end of the stream, even if we run a little bit late. So I'll apologize to Key Lime ahead of time. He's probably not in here to hear it anyway. But we will be taking this all the way to getting our chipping done today because we made such good headway on the initial rust. Beneath this, for anybody that's just joining us, is an entire layer of highlighted rust paint that we did. So this entire tank is completely rusty brown underneath all this green. Right? That's how we started the day. Was getting that rust layered up, getting a really cool kind of motley, dirty look going on it. Now we just got to set in all of our greens so we can chip away at it and get that rust to pop back out through. And that rust is a nice kind of yellowy, orangey rust, so I think it's really going to look good as we start dragging it out of these greens. We're going to darken the greens up so the rust pops even more. I like it. Looking gooda. Got a lot of good shadows on here. Our pre-highlight's still doing its work, even as we darken our greens up. Because as we darken the greens on the bright spots, obviously the shadows dump even further down. So like we've still got our shine line coming down the outside of the turret and down that protrusion there. Alright. Feel like that's pretty good. Next color. How many layers of colors can you put over a chipping solution before it becomes hard to chip? I've never found that. Like, how many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Roll Pop? I think the answer to that is 3. But here, I've never gotten to the limit. Death. As long as you paint thin. If you were to put thick coats of paint on, you might find that pretty quick. But like, we're going to be putting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 probably coats of paint. Maybe only 4 over this. I feel like you can get away with doing whatever you want as long as you paint like I do and paint thin. If you were doing this with a brush and you paint heavy-handed and, you know, put lots of color out each time, then you probably got to lessen that. Because each subsequent layer will dry, you'll have to just force it a little bit more. That initial layer will always be sitting upon the uncured chipping medium and will always move until the chipping medium cures. But yeah, you could get stuck in a situation where the upper layers are harder to get through because they're dried on top of each other. That's why you want to keep them thin, so that you can always move that bottom layer with minimal effort. Otherwise, the more muscle you have to put into it, the more paint you're going to move, and you might not get the actual look that you're going for. All right, next up, Russian green. We're going to test Russian green and see if it even gives us much. We're pretty light in the light spots. Right? The Russian green is a little bit yellower. We'll see if it gives us much. If not, we'll go straight to the interior green. Interior green is our lightest color that we're going to go with on this highlight batch.
Psychotic Jester wants you to put googly eyes on the tank.
He's been saying that the whole day, and now he's trying to lobby for you to get me to do it too. We've told him.
If I had any in my craft box, I don't think I do.
See, I told him. I said, if there are some in the house, they'll be in your craft box. And she probably does have googly eyes.
I might.
I think I remember seeing some googly eyes.
I got rid of so much stuff when we moved, though.
She did have like stuff like that. I'm pretty sure.
I don't know why I would have had googly eyes though. I can go get you some if you want.
So the I'm not putting googly eyes statement should pretty much tell you where I stand on that.
Okay.
You guys aren't the boss of me. You can't force me to do things I don't want to do. So this isn't going to give us a lot of color on here, but it's going to help me even out some of what's going on here. And that'll be enough to stick with it.
He wants to know if he buys you a second set, would you paint and put googly eyes on that one?
Wow. Really? That's where we're at right now? He's like, you know what? What if I bought another one? Yes, I probably would, you bastard. I probably would. You probably got me there.
Where should they go?
This kid's gotta go.
I got it. No, Zeb's out of here. What? Thanks for stopping in, Zeb.
Hey, Zeb. Hi,
and the one bad joke we got today.
Oh, and I missed it.
What this color is allowing me to do, even though it's not really showing you guys a lot, is it's allowing me to even out some of those shine spots that were a little bit blotchy, right? I can come through and I can layer this, and it is lightening it up enough to blend. So that's being good. Like right down here, down the center of this area that sticks out, I can kind of hit that and wash it all together. But I'm not going to use much of it anywhere else, I don't think. There's just not enough spots where it's performing for me like I need it to. So we'll move on to the next color after I make sure I got at least a little bit of this all over the model. If I do it on one side, I got to do it on the other. Color balance. So I'm just going up to all these areas where I've got a little bit of lighter color around the edges, at the top, throwing this on there and blending it down. Right. Much better military green color now. Still some good color transitions on there. Let's get the top of this panel before I move too far along. This will help blend these panel highlights a little bit.
All right, I see you, KTP. Who's there?
Bingo. I like it. Clean that out and go to our interior green, which is definitely a lighter color. It should give us a little bit of highlight, and we'll do interior green, and then we'll do one pass of interior green with ivory, and then we'll be done. Then we can chip. Then we can chip and move along. You're always under the clock, but not as bad as I make it sound. Like, literally, if it took us all stream just to get the paint layered up, and then I chipped it after the stream was over, 3 hours after we put chipping solution on there, it's still going to work. You're in that safe band up till about 4 hours. And after about 3 to 4 hours, your chips are going to be much smaller, which on a miniature, that's usually what we're going for anyway.
Hey, somebody likes us.
But if you're looking for big chunks of paint, you got to be careful.
Number one, the larch.
Number one, the larch. Welcome, my friend. Thank you for the follow. The larch. All right. Interior green. All that we've been using is AK Interactive today for the rust colors, because believe it or not, for those of you that are just showing up, this entire tank is painted rust colored underneath. We will be chipping away the greens to show the rust in it a little bit.
Kid's gotta go.
Resurrected, you out of here. Take it easy, man. What about for another giveaway spine? What? Another giveaway spin? For what? What are we talking about? Button eyes, then paint it to look like a stuffed animal? You people. Are you making fun of this tank? A psychopath. That's okay. I'll give that one an okay. An okay. You gotta go play tech. All right, man, take it easy. Anthony says he has a small starter compressor that caps at 30 psi. When using your airbrush, it goes down to 18 to 20. Is that okay, or should you start it lower? Should you start it lower? Generally, those hobby compressors will not run at full output, and you're seeing that. So if you have it set to 30, and when you pull the trigger, it drops down to like 20, 18 to 20, consistently. As long as you feel like that meter is correct, then I'd say you're fine. Because they'll build up to 30 psi pressure in the line, but as soon as they're having to be called on to run all the time, they can't put out 30 consistently, generally. Some of the better ones can. So yeah, I would say you're fine. If you start any lower than that and you find yourself with the compressor going down to, say, 12 to 15, then you could split the difference and just see how the paint reacts, right? So there's no specific number that I can tell you that's always right. It depends on your humidity, the climate, your brush, the compressor itself. The valve that you have, like I said, some valves read differently than others, and that's not a perfect science. A lot of times these hobby valves are cheapo plastic valves, and they may not be reading the pressure correctly anyway. So, I use an industrial valve set on mine, and I feel like mine's always sitting at 22. When I pull the trigger on the airbrush, it stays at 22, so I would prefer to have that set up, but with the hobby compressors, you're just not going to get that. As soon as you call for error, it's going to fluctuate.
You'll like that one. 3 nuns are sitting on a park bench. A man comes up and exposes himself to them. 2 of them have a stroke, but the 3rd one couldn't reach. KTP, I said who's there a long time ago.
Psychotic, that one's good. She did say who's there. She's been trying to edge that knock-knock joke out of you for a long time. You're not playing, KTP. You're being a tease. All right, so here we go with our first highlight here, and this is actually a brighter color, so we're going to come in and give it a nice spot highlight and just kind of work the top of the turret around. Not too far down. I'm just going to layer it up top here.
You said work the turret around.
The turret.
No, I'm going to...
I have notoriously large turds.
Famously large turds. My turds are famously large.
My turds are famously large. She cracked up so much
good.
in the movie.
A little poop joke.
Gotta love a movie with poop jokes.
That was really funny.
Yeah, if you haven't seen Guardians of the Galaxy 2, I think it's worth it just because
good.
the humor is pretty decent. Even though I'm not a huge fan of the story, but whatever. I'm not gonna be that guy. It was a good movie.
That's fun.
I need to layer up a little bit of color up there so you can see how we're getting that kind of yellowish green olive glow on the top of the turret now and across the top of the barrel of the gun. I won't layer much up as we go down the face, but I'm going to drop in a little bit along the edge of the what is that called? The mantlet of the gun there. Get the top of the commander's hatch. Brighten that up a bit. Get all these areas where we had that highlight showing through. I just want to work in a little bit of the shine. So all these corners.
Yeah, we went last night, and surprisingly, there were quite a few people there. But it's summer now, so I think people go to the movie whenever they want. It's not a school night anymore.
Get this panel highlight again, just kind of build up some of this, staying away from the shadow, fade it out to the edges. Right, but just kind of working right in the middle of the panel. You can see that area that I'm building up from the shine. Right, but it goes out and fades really nice in with the rest of those greens, but just gives you a little bit of that dull yellowy green in there. We catch a little bit along the bottom edge of the turret, right? Anywhere where it's been having to move has a chance to build up, a little bit of rough edges, thinned out paint. Put a little bit down along that edge of the turret there. A fine line.
Hey, Viking. I liked Logan, but I had never seen any of the other X-Men movies and didn't know anything about the story, so probably made a difference.
Yeah, it's a love or hate one for the comic book nerds. I liked it. I didn't feel like it was as good as it could have been again, but, like I said, I try to go into movies like that with a pretty optimistic view of it and not try to hold it to any kind of, historical what I like about comic books thing, because as we talk about a lot, it's very difficult to get something that was in a written form that appealed to you to appeal to, the same field of people when it's visual. Because visual takes away the ability to be super creative in your own world to envision it the way you think it should be, right? When you're reading, right? Ear buckets. Holy hell, what a great name. A $24.99 sub. Are you kidding me? Exclamation point hype in chat. Ear buckets, thank you so much. Welcome to the family. Enjoy those emotes. But like I was saying, is that, you get a medium in like books, right? Like say the Lord of the Rings and such. And then you get the movies. And you're going to have diehards that are like, oh, it's nothing like the books. They eliminated all the parts I liked and yada, yada, yada. And it's like, yeah, it's hard because a book, you have no visual. And so everything that's written, your interpretation of the words gives you your own creation of a visual. Comic books, not so much because they are visual. So they take a little bit of that away, but there's still gaps in the story in comics that you can fill in with your own imagination. And not just the artist renderings.
TTP, did you not see that Psychotic Jester just typed that joke like 2 minutes before you did?
Uh-oh, Psychotic probably said, was that the knock-knock joke?
No, he never finished his knock-knock joke.
Damn you.
He said he doesn't have time, or it's hard to tell jokes because he's at work. But then he told another
well then
joke.
Don't start what you can't finish, man.
That's what I was going to say.
What the hell? KTP like, no, I'm at work, man. I can't tell jokes. Well, then don't say knock-knock, you bastard. Look at that. Pretty good. Highlights on that. We got good look in there. A little bit feathered into these darker areas up top, even though we don't want to overtake them too much, but I'm going to go and get a little bit of panel work done here.
We need someone to make us a joke database.
A joke database? What?
So that people can check before they post a joke and see if we've heard it already.
Is there a time limit? Because some of them are okay when they come back, like, weeks later.
Yeah. But time all runs together.
All right, JP, get on that. I called JP a horrible troll today, so he may not even be here anymore.
Database. You called him what?
A horrible troll.
Oh.
He was horribly trolling.
Yeah.
He's in one of those moods.
Worse than normal? We love you, JP. I feel like I just saw him type something. Maybe not, though. Oh, yeah, he did.
You guys can pick up and see some of these highlights as I'm adding them on like the tip of the barrel down here. Right. Feathering in like on the transitions of the round. You can see the top of the barrel, top of the turret here, a little bit of detailing in like at the front of this hatch, the corners on all of this.
He said, your face is a horrible troll.
Yeah, like I said. Welcome, JP. World's worst troll. This side of the turret over here, I want a little bit of glow down along the bottom edge.
Get down with the clown.
Wow! I feel good.
Wow, 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 wow. A little bit of glow on the side of the hatch there. Feel like we want some along this bottom edge of the turret. Again, really digging this.
Anthony, I feel like that might be a regional joke because I don't get it.
A regional joke? Is that what you just said?
Uh-huh. Like sometimes people from Australia tell us jokes and we don't get them because I don't know what this means.
That is true, and it does seem to come from Australia most of the time.
Is Anthony from Australia? Anthony, are you from Australia? It said, I came home from the shops and my neighbor asked why I had a lettuce on a lead or lead, I'm not sure, I think lead. I replied, the guy who sold it to me said it was a collie. C-O-L-L-Y, I don't know what a collie is.
Like a cauliflower?
Maybe, but I don't know.
Yeah, that seems very regional. It seems like you might lose us on that one. Just saying. A little bit of panel highlight. You can see we're just edging the tops here. We don't want too much crazy brightness going on.
Well, okay. So collie is a breed of dog. C-O-L-L-I-E.
This we know. But how does that relate to lettuce?
Yeah, I don't
Hey,
know.
somebody likes us.
This is a thing I'm not familiar with. Ario, AK Walnut, what's going on? Thank you for that follow. Welcome to the fab. We're highlighting a chibi tank. And then we're going to do the good work here in a little bit and start chipping away at it. As soon as we get a little bit more highlight applied, I'm pretty happy with where we're at right now. Not gonna lie, I feel like that's pretty good. Get the back here.
I mean, maybe it was supposed to be like a combination of those, right? Collie like cauliflower, but also like the dog. But I don't get why a lettuce would be on a lead.
Because the guy said it was a collie, and he was like, oh, a collie's a dog, so I'm going to put it on a lead. But I don't understand what collie has to do with lettuce.
Right.
See? So I feel like that one's getting lost on us.
Hey, somebody likes us.
I want to understand. I always want to try and understand.
Yeah, that's the biggest problem, right? And Dikertone, what's going on, my friend? Welcome. Thank you for that follow. All right, I feel like that's pretty good. We got pretty good highlights everywhere. A little bit more on these panels here.
Let us continue to dissect this cauliflower joke.
Yeah, exactly. That's a pun. That one I get. Right? That one I get. That one makes sense to me. Don't understand the rest of it, though. I feel like a little bit here.
Oh, it's a cauli is a type of lettuce?
This is a thing I've never heard of.
Colly. Then it makes a little more sense because
yeah, it does. I
then
just
it's
never heard of
sounding
that
like
before.
collie as the dog. So when they say it's a collie, then you would put a leash on it. That
So
must
hopefully
be
you
it.
guys can pick up those subtle transitions. Our brightness is on there now. We've got good color, good fades.
And I hate asking, but but we don't understand.
We don't understand that stuff. I got a little bit of paint left in here. We're going to add a little bit of ivory into the mix. You know our deal. Model color ivory is my favorite mixer for...
When is a collie not a collie? When it's lettuce. Yeah, I guess.
I'm just going to put a little bit of ivory on the world's most amazing brush and put it in here, rather than trying to put a drop of paint in, because I don't think I want it that bright. All right. We change up our paint. Now we're a lot brighter. This will be our final highlight with the airbrush before we do chipping. We're kind of right on time-ish. And then I'm going to add a little bit of flow improver just to spot that. Make sure we're still at a good thin texture on these paints. You notice that the only paint we've had trouble with tonight is white. I just want you guys to note that, so that every time I'm bitching at white, you realize I'm not bitching just to bitch. We literally, if I look at that needle, we've painted 4 colors of green, and there is no paint on that needle. I just want you to realize this. Hashtag somebody make me a better white. All right. All right, now for the last highlight. Again, starting right here on the turret. There it is.
Hey, somebody likes us.
JP said, yes, I was upset you called me a bad troll. Then I went and killed 9 people with a silenced Uzi, and now I feel better.
Yeah, well, whatever. Who was that? That was too long of a name for me to catch.
Low observable goat.
Low observable goat. What a name. Welcome to the fam. Much appreciated.
TBT. Just to make them sweat a little bit, like, oh, that didn't go over well.
A little bit of shine on the barrel.
You're so serious.
Right. Notice how we're just getting that glare. I'm not trying to add a whole lot here. I don't want it to get too bright. I just want to get a little bit of circular glow. A little bit of a shine spot work, and I got to be real careful here so I don't build up anything that looks too funky.
Just a moment.
Right.
Just a moment.
Going to get this edge of the commander's hatch. I'm going to spray into the hatch so I don't get overspray onto the rest of the model, and then just again let my overspray grab the edge right there. Right, so I get a little bit of shine. Turn it around 180 degrees and do the same thing on the other side. And notice how I'm building up a lot of paint on the inside because I just want to catch the outside with a little bit of glare. Now we're just basically going in, grabbing some highlights on these corners. Again, you don't want to get too carried away with these bright colors. We'll add in a lot more with like edge details. So I'm just putting a little bitty thin line across the front. We'll feather that in very, very lightly. Same thing on all these forward edges where we got corners. Top edges around the onto this top of this barrel right here.
JP said collie is a dumb name for a dog
Dirty,
or lettuce.
dirty
Grow
little
up, people. Talk about real things like poop and boobs.
Poop
maybe
and boobs,
maybe
folks.
throw the
Poop
random
and
penis
boobs.
in there.
Now we're talking. For anybody new to the stream, please ignore JP.
We do though, like poop and boob jokes. DBD is giving tips on how to make people feel awkward and bad about themselves. Sometimes I pretend not to get a joke just to see the mild panic in the joke teller's eyes.
The mild panic. And because it's always the easy ones that you do that with. It's like, I don't understand at all. What are you talking about?
Another great way to see that same panic look is to give a friend a gift for Christmas when you know they didn't get you anything.
Yep.
Or on the reverse, if the friend gets you something and you didn't get them something, then straight face tell them you don't celebrate Christmas. Too commercial.
You're not very good friends if they don't know that you don't celebrate Christmas. Just saying. Highlight on that. Right there. Just catching corners. I'm not trying to do anything super spastic with these highlights. I just want to get a little bit on there. Remember, we're going to be chipping this, so I can't put too much highlight on. Otherwise, I wind up screwing with the chipping. A lot of this I got to come back and do later. Again with the brush. So right now I'm just building up a little bit of highlight. Make sure some of these edges still pop. Anywhere where there's these little panels to separate. Cylinders where I want a little bit of highlight coming down from the top. Get a little bit on these panels.
So Cassie was going to be here like 3:30 or 4. And then she texted a little while ago and said, it'll be closer to 4:30. She goes, but I should be good because my flight's not till 6:52. I'm like, oh yeah, plenty of time. And so then now she said, my phone tells me 4:48. I'm the worst in getting out the door. Do you think we'll still be good? I'm like, I don't, like, what are you going to do if I say no?
He's wanting affirmation.
I guess.
A little bit right on the top of the panel there. Blur it in. And again, just grab these edges in the back.
Ray Silver said, wait, I haven't heard balls 90 times yet tonight. Hashtag unsub.
Hey, I can't please everybody all the time, Ray.
Now there's a question, so here, this will help. What quantity of soda balls are you going to sell? Balls.
Balls. I feel like balls need to come in quantities of 2 or greater before they can really be considered usable. Hashtag no offense to Uniballs.
The LT said, what's going on? When I left work, the tank was brown and rusty, and now it's all green. Did you do some sleight of hand magic?
Different tank, LT. We decided we didn't like brown. Decided that the brown was not the color we were going for. We're about to show you the actual magic, though, so just hold tight. Hold tight, it's coming.
2 or greater, so like 3.5. They prefer to be called monoballs.
Monoball is not uniball. All right, I shall try to remember that.
Mono, yeah. Uni, meaning joined together like a unibrow. We don't want that.
That's actually
Balls
the
that,
growing together
grow
part
together.
has nothing to do with the uni word, actually, folks. Let's get the language right. Right, just a little bit of glow on the pipes.
Wow.
And I feel like we got to do a little highlight.
Uniball is a pen company, yes.
All right, the spot highlight on those panels. There. I feel like we're good to start knocking some chips into this bad boy. What do you think? I likey. Right, so hopefully you guys are picking up all the work. I mean, that's pretty good for just the tank as it sits. So we've got good highlights. We've got good coverage for color. I likey. Now, let's start chipping. And after we do some chipping, get the chipping finished, we will go over and take a look at some final whip and do a giveaway. Thanks to Psychotic Jester, we got a giveaway to do tonight. Thanks for the support. Hey, JP, how many dozens of games did it take you to kill 9 people? But bump. Ridicule, I am painting a tank. Holy shit, you snuck in. I think I had to turn off Tunic. That's why Ridicule was able to sneak in the door. And Ridicule, if you're out there, I've been playing tanks quite a bit, man. I never see you on, though. All right, done with the airbrush for the moment. Our paint is good and set up, and now the trickery, the tomfoolery. We're going to use these, right? These, what are these called? Disposable micro applicators for makeup. These are actually the purple ones, which are small. You can buy these off Amazon for super cheap. And they're basically just little makeup applicators. I think they're in the cosmetics section, right? But they just have these little bitty cotton swabs on the end of these plastic utensils, and this is what I use when going and doing chipping. So, let's see if we can't zoom in here. And remember, this tank, if we had a flashback mode on this deal, we'd be able to show you that this tank is painted completely rust-colored underneath all this green. Right? So I'm just going to get these wet. We'll come back in here and start moving some paint around.
Nope, I had never seen these before I met Jason. And we don't share bath.
I'm going to get the upper edge of the commander's hatch here. There's our rust colors coming back out. Get along the bottom edge here. Turret, where it would be, paint would be being scraped as the turret turned. And there's our rust colors coming out. Some of these open areas here, we can just do some kind of chunky dots. These panel edges is where we really ought to start. Just going through on the side edges everywhere. Just taking random strokes at knocking paint off. Nasty chunk out of the paint. The wetter you get your brush, the more paint you're going to move. take these edges and do some vertical strokes to them just to get some irregularity out of them. Along the edge and then go back after it and just kind of push the paint. Down, I feel saturated. There we go.
Well, huzzah, huzzah! I'll just throw back my legs and pollute my britches with delight.
Bayside dude!
Bayside dude.
Thank you so much. What's going on, man? Good to see ya. That Twitch Prime sub. Thank you, thank you. Again, just kind of pushing and pulling paint here to get good details. And this has been, what, 2 hours now that we put the airbrush rust colors on here. So kind of showing you that, you know, we're still able to get lots of chipping done. So while you have to be, I guess, fairly, what's the right word? Intent on getting paint finished so that you can get to the chipping part, it's not going to just up and, you know, get to a point where it's dry and you can't move paint in a reasonable amount of time. If we would wait 8 hours, then doing what I'm doing right now would become more and more difficult. Right? There, the cotton swab is gone on that guy. We got to move to a new one. You'll go through a lot of these things, but they work better the more contact area you've got, the more of that swab that's able to make contact with the model. I can just make random hits on it and get a really, really cool effect. The less water I use, the more it'll just do kind of scratches and less paint removal. And it actually is scratching the paint. See that right there? Those strokes literally just scratch the paint, and it has that texture in there. So rather than painting those on, those are shadowed by the fact that they're actual scratches. It just gives a much more realistic look than if you go in and edge paint with a, you know, a sponge or anything like that. LT, you use these to stir your flow improver in your paint cup? Wow. They don't have enough, like, soft edge to really feel like they'd be a good stir stick, though. The cow says moo one we've had. I missed the spot. G-Man, the chipping solution that we're using is Vallejo chipping medium. We sell it in the store. We thinned it down with just straight water to spray through the brush. The first time we used it through the airbrush, it was not as rewarding as I wanted it to be because it's really thick. So this time I went through and thinned it down quite a bit. And this time it worked a ton better. So, mucho bettero with water. I didn't use flow improver because flow improver has got the drying retarder in it, and I didn't want to have the chemical makeup of the flow improver like have some sort of weird reaction with the chipping medium. So we just went straight water. Worked like a champ. All right, so we're getting some really good hits on here. Our rust color is really coming out nice. Hit some of these rivets.
Do you dip that little thing in water before you...
Yep, you just got to get it wet. Water's what activates it and keeps it running. So you don't want to try to move the paint with this dry. You'll have to muscle it too much, and you'll wind up getting all sorts of really bad things happening. Again, I'm just kind of running along each of these edges. Just random strokes. Varying my angle, direction, so that I'm pulling paint and different spots. You can use paint brushes for this. You could use toothbrush. You could use a sponge, but I'd be careful because it needs to be fairly, small if you're looking for small chips. If I had one of my thicker brushes, not like this guy. Oh no, here it is. This thing. So this thing from Army Painter is called the stippling brush, but it's got a really heavy synthetic head on it. Let's try with that. This could totally screw us, but let's see. Yeah, that works okay. I kind of hold it vertically and then kind of take swipes at the model. I get pretty good action. The head is very broad, so I got to be careful. I don't want to take off and have every scratch be the size of this brush, so I got to kind of angle it and hit at it. Like maybe here. Yeah, there. Again, just dipping the brush in the water.
Yeah, it's because he's left-handed, Chester.
What's that?
Your hand kind of covers up the results.
Kind of poke at the model and see what I get. Gives me kind of a cool stippled effect from this stippling brush. Add at that. These leading edges a little bit more aggressively. And notice I'm moving this brush pretty hard on the model surface, right? But it's still not taking off the rust paint that's underneath because the chipping medium is kind of acting as a varnish, so to speak. Right? So again, like on the back of these fenders, we want to be pretty aggressive. That would be where mud and stones get thrown up. So most of the paint would be calling it a day back here and be long gone. So there's all that brown coming through from underneath, but we're actually stripping paint off, which gives us a very realistic look as opposed to trying to paint rust on, right? I've never been a big fan of trying to paint rust areas back onto models except in small amounts because, or chipping, I guess. You can do just straight rust effects because rust can sit on top of the model pretty easily, right? But for the rest of it, chipping, you got to actually have like physical paint removed before it starts looking good. Pretty aggressive brush. Everything's getting pretty big, so I'm going to swap back over to one of the smaller ones so I can do just some tighter edging for a second.
Get down with the clown.
Wow, I feel good.
Darthu said, so you painted the red and then the chipping medium, then the greens?
You got it. All the rust colors, then the chipping medium, and then all of the green that you see goes over the top. So it's basically a multi-step process that's, different from what we're used to, because we would normally only have the primer coat, and then you start your highlights and, you know, base coating and all the regular stuff that you do. And instead of that, we basically have come through and had to paint a couple of different ways, right? We did all of the work with the rust colors, and highlighted the rust and painted it as if the tank were going to be just one big rusty surface, right? And then had to go back over it and paint that all over again. Chunks here on the edge. Careful here in the middle. I don't want too big of a chunky area on the side of the turret, but I do want to lose some paint. So. And I want to make sure it goes through the highlight areas as well as the shadowed areas. So. Again, the front right here around the tracks, I think would be some of the most beat up stuff. Basically just treat this like a dry brush right now. I'm just kind of randomly hitting the edges. Tough with a big barreled brush like this to not get it to look sort of uniform. So you gotta tell your brain to not hit the same spot on each one of these panels and so on. See, and because of the way we painted the rust, notice how the rust has a fade to it, because we painted the whole tank with that, you know, dark to light rust color. So some of our rust areas have already got a nice tone to them. Other ones that are up high, right, they'll all be like one color, or they'll have a fade from dark spots down low into brighter rust as it goes up top. I like this brush. I need like a smaller version of this brush. Be perfect. And pretty aggressive through this area on the front again. More paint down low. Obviously on the mud guards, I didn't even paint them very green. I left most of the rust color showing through there.
Hey, somebody likes us.
Hey. Rodster, what's going on? Thank you for that follow. Let's, I need some more of the applicators. I wonder if they make these at, like, the cotton stays better longer. I doubt it, because they're just little bitty crappy things. But you want to have multiple size tools so that you can do like this, just grab an edge and not have to take off a tremendous amount of paint. I can basically just do like an edge highlight kind of maneuver here.
I think they may make like shadow applicators that are like Q-tips, but are more, they're not as, you know, like Q-tips, if you rub it on something, all the cottony stuff comes apart.
Yeah.
But I think they make some kind of makeup applicators that are by Q-tip, like the brand, but more solid, not as apt to falling apart. Having all the little fibers.
Yeah, we should get some of those and test those out. These just turn into like little, the plastic nodule on the end is all you're left with after a minute or two of using them. So I'll go through a dozen of them on this one tank here with the amount of rust that I'm trying to put on here.
And threw them away when I...
Yeah. Not something you use very often.
Mm-mm. Here, I'm gonna go.
Okay.
Bye, everybody.
Gotta take her cousin to the airport. We are losing Jen for the night. Tell her hi. Oh, she'll probably come in here.
I don't know. It's really late.
Oh, yeah,
so yeah. Probably won't.
Got some other. The nice thing is that we'll get through this tonight, and then what we'll do is on tomorrow's stream we'll use some of these other new products that I've got here. We've got a lot of the Vallejo effects paints that I want to show you, the oil spill stuff, the gasoline, the grass and mud effects. We'll use those and show you how you can get some really, really cool kind of diorama-esque effects on your models with very little effort. I mean, literally with some of them, it's as easy as painting it on, right? Like this one takes this secondary and tertiary process almost when you're doing the chipping, because you've got to spend so much time going through and placing the chips. But it gives you a really cool effect. The like the oil stain stuff is like a ultra wash, so to speak, that does amazing stuff on the model without a whole lot of effort at all. I'll do a little bit, see if I can't. A little bit of stippling. Not quite remove so much paint, but just lighten that area, because what'll happen is it'll move some of the darker paint around.
This kid's gotta go.
That's psychotic. You out of here? Take it easy, man. You ever use the pigments on it? You're curious to try secret weapons? Big Bob, I'll use pigments on this one, for sure. Could you do like a rust, then a jade teal, then metal for water damage rust look? You can do whatever you want to on the bottom. Generally, what you're going to do for things like the tarnish and things like that is add them later, because those will be things like oil drips. You know, the green for like water, mud, all that will come later. Right now, what we're just trying to do is get the rust that's below the surface of the paint on the model, and everything else will come after the fact. So yeah, we'll do a lot of that, and you'll see it. We're gonna try a lot of different techniques on this guy, just for funsies, and to show off these new Vallejo paints and technical things that we got. But yeah, you could. I mean, you can do underneath the chipping solution whatever color you want. So if you felt like what you were wanting was to have more of a, you know, like a verdigris or something like that, you know, a oxidized copper, something like that kind of look, then yeah, you can put whatever colors you wanted to underneath. Nothing limits you other than your imagination on this stuff. You know, we just painted kind of a light to dark rust buildup, but there's nothing stopping you from doing whatever you want. I'm on the middle of these panels here. I get a little bit on the turret. I'm so afraid of screwing the turret up too much, but let's go for it. What the heck? Hey, you. Hey, thank you. It's Cousin Cass. Topless Cassie. Thank you. Have a great trip. Heck yeah, we love Soda. We hope she likes us as much as we like her. Oh, really? Yeah. So she remembers. Look at that. See ya. I don't think the building was done. There we go. Feel like that's pretty good. For big chunks, we can add a couple little scratches here and there if we need to. Oh, maybe a little bit right back here. We're overdoing it just to go for effect on this kind of cartoony tank. Normally I don't do quite this much with weathering, but I ain't mad at it. Oh, holy hell, that was a big chunk. One more applicator out. Because what we'll do is, well, you know what? Let's not even do that. We're going to be creating a lot of rust streaks out of these rust spots. I think what we'll probably do is use some of the new weathering pencils that I've got. I've got some of the Mr. Color weathering pencils here, and I've got a good rust set. So we'll probably go in with that tomorrow and do some of that. So I've got a really good rust set of weathering pencils. And so what this will allow us to do is to create some really cool streaking effects and, you know, everything dripping down out of the rusted areas on here. But we'll do that probably after we do some of the other highlighting. So if I've got some time between now and tomorrow, I'll work on that. Right. But he's pretty good. Right, that'll let us darken up, play with some of the rust. And if you can see how far we can get in here. Notice how that texture that breaks up that I always show you. You know, look at that spot right there. You can see the texture of the paint that got pulled away, and that's really why you do this. Right? Each one of these scratches looks very, very realistic because they're actually scratches. Right? Paint's actually been taken away from the model. And that's what gives you the effect of real weathering, as opposed to trying to paint that rust color on there. Then you lose that edge detail, right? Like around here where the paint's actually peeled up, and you get that shadow built in. And you'll notice when we pin wash, that edge will catch the wash, it'll catch the stain, and that will just help accentuate all this even further. You know, right now is just the basics of setting up for the final weathering. It's just putting some spot rust areas on there, and then as we come back in and streak rust out of those, we'll create even more realistic. Okay, like it's still on your end. You're not getting the full weight of the green. This lamp just hates the green. It still just looks like one-dimensional green. It's very, very muddy green on my end. I don't know why it's not allowing you guys to see that. Go full here. That's closer. Yeah, the camera and the lamps just don't like this color green much. They're not picking it up for you guys. By 50-50 it still looks too bluish green. There's not a hint of that. It's very military green, trust me on that. For some reason it just does not like that color. It's not gonna. This. I go full. Whatever. Oh yeah, because Jen's mic is still up, but she turned it off. Thanks for that. You guys are like, turn the mic off. Thursday night before the weekend and through the weekend? All right, cool. Yeah, let's play some for sure. Assassin Red, yes, weathering pencils. They're like pastel pencils, but they're like oil pastel pencils almost. So they streak a little bit better. You can blur them really nicely. I'll walk you through it tomorrow. I'll show you how you can use them. They're very difficult to find because they come like all the way from Japan and nobody in the US sells them. Art chalks for anything in miniature? Any plans on a tutorial in the future for it, Ray? Yeah, I use art pastels. I do. Darkness, we use the chipping solution, the chipping medium from Vallejo. I sell it on the store. We went through the steps today. You can go back on the VOD. We started from just a black primered tank, and then I painted it with the rust colors, which we use the AK Interactive rusts, right? And we used shadow, dark, medium, and light. So we went through 4 colors of rust on the model. And basically just shaded, rust up darker. You can see some of the spots are dark and some are light, so we get a variation of color in the rust popping through rather than just trying to color it with one. So we used all 4 of the AK products on there and basically painted the entire tank rust. And it actually looked really good just like that. And then we went over with the chipping solution, just thinned it down with water, right? And once it was thinned down with water, airbrushed it on, did 1 coat, basically like 1.5 coats, and then did our workup of greens, which has been the olive base coat, the cam dark green, Russian green, and then interior green. Right? So all from Model Air, very military World War II colors. Did that, and then as soon as we got done, we added a little bit of ivory to the interior green for the last highlight that you can see like kind of up on the dome of the turret here. Things like that, top of the barrel. And yeah, and then we just started hitting it with the chipping. Knocking some paint off. Kind of went crazy with it. But I dig it. Kind of beat up these crazy little chibi tanks with a little Lego looking dude on them. Right? I figured to have the ultra hyper realistic look on these cartoony tanks would be kind of a fun thing to do. So that's what we're focused on. And tomorrow we'll go into more weathering. I didn't expect to get this far today. We'll take a look at whip real quick. I've been ignoring it. But yeah, I didn't expect to get this far today and get the chipping actually done. I figured we'd do the chipping solution and chipping tomorrow. But since we made it to this point, what we'll do tomorrow is go in and hopefully before then I can do a little bit of the highlight and the dry brush on the tank and get it all set and ready. Because what we'll do is we'll go through and do some dry brushing to pull the rivets back out with the greens and then do the edge highlighting now that we have all of our rust kind of placed on the model. Highlight all of our edges, get everything set and ready to go, and then we'll start doing the exterior stuff. I'll do some pin washing before that, and then we'll go back and do like oil stains, the mud and grass on the tracks. We'll start painting the tracks, things like that, and doing all of those kind of final weathering details that happen when you do a tank. Because generally you don't do the tracks first, or at least I don't. So we'll go through and paint. You notice how we didn't rust anything on the tracks except for the suspension covers there. We'll do the road wheels and the tracks themselves and paint all that up. We've got the rust effects that I plan on showing you, so we'll use some of that as well. Right, the rust texture stuff from Vallejo. A few of you have already bought it through the store. This is some of the best stuff on the planet. We'll go through and put some of this for surface rust into some of the corners. And just try to use all of the Vallejo stuff that we sell in the store that I don't really use a lot on stream because we're generally doing Marines and soldiers and stuff like that. So there's not a lot of call for rust on those guys. And we'll do a lot of those effects on here. And like I said, just kind of hyper realism it, just go way over the top, more so than we normally would, so that we can show off all of those details. We've got the diesel fuel stuff. We've got oil stains, mud and grass for the tracks. We've got the weathering pencils. We'll do some art chalks like Ray had asked about, so we'll do some art pastel stuff. There's not a lot of area to base this guy, so I'm probably not going to do any basing. on it because there's just no area to detail that, and you have these little wound trackers on the side that I don't want to cover up. So we're not going to do any turf or anything like that. I'm just going to, maybe I'll even paint it like bronze and weather the bronze plate that it's on because it has rivets on the bronze plate. It's kind of supposed to be a metal thing. So we might just go ahead and dry brush some metallics on it, make it interesting down there. And yeah, so that's what we're going to do. That's what we'll spend tomorrow doing, do a couple of little fiddly bits on it and see how far along we can get with the weathering. So you guys can see how cool some of these specialty technical paints that we use are. Yeah, and we sprayed the medium on. How do I stay so fuzzy? What the hell are you talking about? What the hell are you talking about? Greenleaf, what's going on, man? On your Wasp Bomb, Deadly Wookiee. Nice. Yeah, and you can do it. I mean, the thing is literally, yeah, classic. Like, for some reason on this one, it's not, like, we're not getting the yellows of the green showing up as much as I wanted to. I don't know why. It's still kind of showing too blue-green. My camera just doesn't like it. I probably got to adjust my color settings. I might have moved them at some point in time. But you can go as sparse as you want. If we had let this sit before chipping it, like I wanted to get the chipping done on stream, so we're being able to move really big chunks of paint, right? We can get really big areas of stuff knocked out. If I would have waited another hour or two before chipping it, then I would have never been able to get these big chunks. I would have just gotten very small, light scratching. So you can use the chipping mediums to get various levels of weathering. It's just where you have to decide ahead of time. You still do everything the exact same way that we've shown. Paint all of your whatever color you want to shine through. In this case, we use the rusts. If you paint all that, do the whole tank, then use the chipping solution, thin it down if you're going to airbrush it or paint it on with a brush. Get that all set up and then go through and paint it up like we did with the greens. Go all the way from your shadow to your highlight level. Make sure that you have everything that you want to do, in this case with our airbrush, done. I don't want to airbrush another coat on this, so I have to do everything from shadows, midtones, highlights, the whole nine, get all that finished, and then it's now start the clock. Once you're done with that, if you want aggressive chips like this, you want it to really look beat up, then and go for that hyper kind of look, then start chipping right away. You'll get big chunks of paint to come off. If you want it to be more delicate edges, light scratches, just like sand is blown against it and kind of been weathered naturally instead of, you know, bullets ricocheting off of it, then you let the stuff set up more, and the longer it cures, the less it'll be able to move. So if you give it an extra hour or two and then go back, you'll still be able to move paint, but it'll only come off in small scratches. And you'll have to do a whole lot to get like this kind of area of paint off like we did like on the back fenders and stuff, and these big chunks on the turret. That normally won't happen like that, right? And if you let it set overnight, then chances are you won't get any of it to come off. So be careful. There is a happy medium in there someplace where from start to finish here, we were probably about 2 hours between applying the chipping medium and actually doing the chipping. And you don't want to go more than, I would say, 4 hours if you don't want to make it extremely hard. If you go 6-8 hours down the road, it's going to be extremely hard to get the paint to move, but when it does, it'll just be like lightly buffed. It won't look like huge chunks of paint. So play around with it. You know, paint a test model and, you know, do half of the model where you chip it immediately and see how it works, and the other half of the model, wait, you know, a couple hours and see. You can do it on sprue. You can play with it however you want before you go in and torch a model, especially if you're using it on things like, you know, like scale models. See a couple places where I want to hit it again. You know, if you're doing like scale military stuff, 1/35th scale, things like that, you don't want to ruin, you know, like a Tiger II tank that you spent $80 on, right? So, you know, just be careful. Test it on stuff so that you're not running the risk of ruining a precious model off of your shelf to do the things that you want to do. And again, I can let this sit for a couple hours and come back to it and do more later on if I want to. I'm going to go ahead and get a little bit on the barrel of the gun too, just for shits and giggles, because I don't know if I'm going to leave the barrel this green or if I'm going to paint it a gray or what I'm going to do. But I don't want it to look ultra clean. You notice how now, even on the barrel, because it was a little thinner, as I go in, I'm not moving big chunks of paint. It's just dulling the paint and getting through to like the bottom, but it's not moving huge chunks. I must have put less of the chipping solution on there, so that's kind of cool. I could do that all night long. to where we're back to just a rusted tank. But now you start doing the topical stuff, so we'll start doing that tomorrow. Okie doke. So without further ado, let's take a look at some whip. I know we got some whip up here. Let me do a refresh over there. If you can do ! Whip in chat, we'll take some time and go look at some of that stuff. Holy hell. Did Jen take a picture of the cake, or is that somebody else's cake? I feel like somebody's taunting me with cake. Let's take a look at some whip. All right, I think we left off here. I don't know what this is. Durthu, Rocky, and Apollo Creed. Holy hell, there's miniatures for Rocky? Lies. Durthu, this is awesome. What game is this for? Is there a Rocky miniature game? What am I missing? Oh, that's hilarious. That's freaking awesome. I know not where these come from. Assassin Red. Okay, there you go. Pre-highlighting some Hawk Islam. Some Alpha Seed Regiment. This profile in the game is amazing. With the heavy machine gun and the smoke grenade launcher. That guy is bitching. He's like a self-contained combat unit. I dig it. Yep. I like that you've picked up the pre-highlighting. It's been working well for your highlights. How are they looking? What would I change? JP. Wow, this pink is amazing. The purple to pink highlight on here is pretty cool. On this one, I would want to see a little bit more of the dark purple, right? I feel like it exists because I'm seeing it on the shadowed edges back here, but I'd like to see a little bit more of the dark kind of worked in, you know, to the flame. It might be oversaturating your camera and it might actually exist. But yeah, that's it. Just a little bit more color variation because the colors are awesome, right? The bright yellow green and the dark green. I just feel like instead of a kind of linear gradient that you've got where it's kind of like dark green to mid-tone green and then to bright green, is it maybe splotchy, you know? Work in a little bit more of the darks and the lights across it. But that's bitching. Both of those are really bitching. I like some. Great colors. That purple and pink is amazing. Confurioso, quick and easy Horus Heresy Thousand Sun scheme. C and C always welcome. There's not a lot to tell you here, man. This the metallic reds, right, are amazing. Right? Whenever I see people doing Alpha Legion and these pre-heresy Thousand Suns with the metallic underlayment like that, or the ghost tints, it is amazing. It's great. You get a great effect without a whole lot of effort, right? And not to belittle your work, trust me. But the paints themselves, have just such a great finish to them that it pops the model completely without a whole lot of extra work. Yeah, I like them a lot. I like it a lot. Is the face of the gun white? Because that's actually really cool. I can't tell if it's just saturated from the flash or if that's actual white. I feel like that's actual white on the gun, which is really cool. I like that a lot. Damn it! That's it! That's the cake eating work in progress from Jen. She's taunting me. See, we only ate a corner. Like, this is real-time picture. We only ate a corner of the cake from yesterday with a fork. Either that or an animal got to it. But we have a whole cake. This is a big cake. So that's what I'll be doing when I leave you guys tonight, is I will be going and partaking of cake and cold pizza. Maybe not together. What am I doing wrong? The leather and metal don't look right to you, JP. What are you doing wrong? The leather and metal don't look right to you. I don't know that you're doing anything wrong. I feel like your base colors are good. If you're saying that there's a lot of highlighting done already, then I don't think you're going stark enough, and you need to, brighten these up. I love the leather color, right? That ruddy, kind of reddish, muddy brown looks really good. For the pelt, I would go with a lighter color on the inside, right? Because right now, the inside of the pelt is the same leather color as like the sword hilt, so those are going to get lost if you don't do something there. When you tan a hide or you cut that hide off and you have fur, it's not uncommon for the inside to be, very, very light and then the fur color to be dark. So that would give you the ability to get some contrast here. And then the leather strapping go with this dark leather so that it would all sit in contrast. Again, the metal just kind of looks like you've done a base coat. So I feel like you haven't done enough highlighting to start pulling parts of the model out from one another. So that would be the next step. But again, I like it. I think the blonde hair, all the colors you got going on here are nice. It's just going to be making all these browns different enough so that they feel like different textures, different colors. Because you got fur, you got the hair, which is different than the inside of the skin. which is different from the tanned leather, right? So all of these textures on him are going to be different, and so you need to represent that with color. So just play around with your browns. Faux show. Pixel Cats. Oh my God, this cake, right? I'll show it to you again. So it's a sour cream yellow cake, right, with cinnamon and brown sugar swirled out throughout it, and then she did the cream cheese drizzle on top for icing. That's absolutely amazing. It's my Sakatumi birthday cake. Favorite cake in the world. Zeb Zorander added bright flank markings on the alpha. Thinking about going all the way to yellow. Thoughts. Bright flank markings. Is that this here? On the side of the chest? Is that what you're talking about? I don't see yellow being a problem. I wouldn't go full body yellow. If you glaze yellow on there, that would work really well. You want to still keep it in the range of green with just bright yellow highlights. Yeah, I think that would work really well. That green's an awesome color. Let's do a refresh. Uno refresh. Fists! Bayside Dude. Putting together some imp fists. I love it. You know me. I love my Imperial fists. Great looking models, man. Great work on the yellows. Great work on the yellows. Nice pin wash. Shadows look really good. The yellows are super bright and vivid. I love it. Without looking lemony. That's the big key, right? Keeping them in kind of that brown-orange range. Yeah, these look great. Can't complain about these at all, man. A whole army of these that look boss on the table. Absolutely bitching. Good work. Don't be afraid of yellow. Only be afraid of white. Oh my God. Now we got to do a giveaway. It is giveaway time. We got one giveaway to do. Thank you, Psychotic, for coming through like a boss. Psychotic dumped a 50 spot on us to make sure that everybody gets a giveaway today. The raffle is closed. Got 82 entries. Jen vacated the premises, which means I don't even have anything to write winners down with. Or do I? I have a pen. Ta-da! I'll write it on my face. The winner is... I won't write it on my face, but you get the drill. So let's go over and do some... let's give somebody lucky something on the wheel. What say you? Okie doke. Look up above my head in the little white box, and a winner's name will appear shortly. We have one winner coming out of tonight, so drum roll, please. All you guys do a drum roll for me out in your head. Don't do it. Well, no, do it out loud and scare the hell out of your family and friends, too. Just be like, and then go, boing, and the winner is... Now's when you guys are doing it. Darkness Nom. Congratulations, Darkness. Ta-da! Darkness Nom is our winner for the evening. Congrats, congrats. Pixel Cats was like, motorboat, motorboat it. Motorboat it. All right, Darkness, you know the drill. We're on a clock here, my friend. Got to make this happen. You've been here a long time. Darkness Nom is the one that's responsible for giving us these amazing chain link bracelets, too, that you see on stream every day. I haven't taken mine off but once since I got it. It is amazing. I love it. Darkness, thank you so much for being a friend of the stream. But now, we're not talking about friendliness. We're talking about something else that makes the world go round. And that would be awkwardness. And we want you to grab your monitor, stare deeply into it, and create as much awkwardness between myself and you as humanly possible, right now. A wink. All right, what does the man win? What does the man win? Seven-month streak over. Darkness is always like, I never win anything. Damn it. Hey, and you win the coolest thing I just put on the wheel today, dude. I just put this on the wheel today, and I'm excited about it. It is the Wild West Exodus two-player starter set that has the Union versus the Natives. The free. It's Cowboys and Indians, basically. I don't have it right next to me. It is amazing. It's only like 4 models aside, but it gives you enough for a 2-player start to learn about Wild West Exodus. It comes with the quick start rules, all the cards for the units, and 4 units aside, which has, like, I believe 2 mercenaries and 2 Union combat guys, and then 4 of the wild natives, like Sitting Bull in his human form. He also turns into a big bear, I think. I don't remember what his animal form is. But it's got like a Brave with a Gatling cannon. It's amazing. Great models, great game. I think you'll be really stoked with it. Stoked! So congratulations, my friend. Good stuffs. I gotta write that down, though. Must write down price on piece of paper. Darkness Nom. Breaking the losing streak of, actually, ever since he's been here. Never won, I don't think. Wild West Exodus, 2-player. Congrats. Enjoy that. You know the drill. Exclamation point winner in chat. Somebody done it? Anybody done it? Done it, dude it? Anybody done dude it? What the hell, Apple? I don't want to install all your crap right now. Leave me alone. Leave me alone! Yeah, right. He's had the longest losing streak. It's a long not winning streak. I don't think you could call it a losing streak. Technically, everybody's a winner, right? Oh, Darkness is already on top of it. There you go. Yep. Go fill it out. Go fill it out. Ogre, take it easy, man. And I'm going to enjoy cake. Oh, I have limited time. I got to be on the podcast in an hour and a half. My God. Yes, tune in on the Long War podcast. I always forget it's Wednesday. Tune in on the Long War podcast over on YouTube, The Long War, and join in with myself, Kenny, Rob, Juice, and Haspel as we discuss all things 40K, of which I know nothing. But it's always a pleasure and fun to be there. So join us over there and have a talk about miniatures. We are going to find Keyline Prime right now and give him the host. So stick around for a minute, guys, and we will see you tomorrow, where we will be starting at 2 p.m. Pacific again, and we will continue on with weathering of our chibi tank. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Bye.